Peace and love. Peace and love. Dulcie might don't even know it stopped.
Oh, no. Peace and love. I had to walk away. Peace and love, everyone. Hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. I'm Dulcinea.
Peace and love. I'm Sister Freedom, Big Mama in the house. Thanks for coming.
And it's D to the O to the T to the S. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
And Niche will be here.
Nisha is on her way, yeah.
And Sharice.
Mm-hmm. And then we got our big bro in the building. Go ahead, Dulcie. You got it.
Yes, we have OTK tonight talking about Indian slave trade. Peace, OTK.
Our brother.
Peace and love. What's going on with y'all? How y'all doing? Of course, my sisters. How y'all doing? I'm outside on my porch that I built.
Beautiful.
I'm enjoying nature out here with 90-degree damn near weather still in the south.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you bragging? Why are you bragging?
God, today.
Come back to your roots.
And it's been raining. Where are you at in the south?
South Carolina, Freedom.
Oh, my God. The bottom part of South Carolina.
Lovely
I'm
there.
like 3 hours. I'm 3 hours away from Jacksonville.
Wow. It's nice and hot there.
So we doing this tonight because OTK will be doing he's going to be doing a build soon coming up on the house. I don't know if it's going to be the House of Consciousness or Sonetta Studios. He's going to get people together over there about what the Indian slave trade is and the contents. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to just get a little preview of that, of what's going to happen once you do that. Do you have a date for that yet, OTK?
OTK. Oh my goodness. OTK.
Not with that voice. Girl, not with that voice. We're not doing that. But while OTK is getting his internet together, let's shout out in the chat. What's up, Carrie? Mike Dollar, the bad guy. Hey, y'all.
You know what I mean?
Allison, Bucky. Welcome, y'all. Engine number 9, Jean Baptiste. Welcome, y'all. OTK, you back?
Yeah, I'm screaming on my side too, y'all. So
okay.
Mic check 1 2. Y'all can hear me? I'm good.
Yes,
you're good. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna start. I guess Dulce, you're gonna start with the first question.
No, you should start with the first question.
Well, before we get that, 1 second, y'all. Hold on, just real quickly before we start with OTK and his build. We just want to let y'all know that this Sunday, Dulcie and I will be on HOK, and we're going to be talking. The title's called Lies My Teacher Told Me, Myths About the Slave Trade. And so we need y'all in the building heavy on Sunday over at Sonetta. Salute to Sonetta, HOK. We need y'all support. You know, we might be in, we in, how do you call it? Enemy territory. Nah, but for real. Make sure y'all in the building. That's this Sunday at 7 p.m. So,
and that's gonna be good. I can't wait. I can't.
Oh wait, it's OT. Oh, hey, Sheree.
Y'all gotta let me back up.
Yes, I'm so happy for y'all. I just wanted to say briefly, shout out to y'all. I know y'all been on Sonetta. That's not unfamiliar territory for you ladies, but I am very, very excited. I can't wait for y'all to put out the information and enlighten their audience to, things that they may not know and some things they may know. So I'm very, very excited for y'all. So shout out to Dulcie and Dots doing a big one. That's what I wrote on my little caption. Shout out to
y'all. You're so funny.
In the house.
Okay.
Hawk.
Hey, what is how you?
Y'all want me to start with the first question? Who wants to start with the first question?
Well, what were you kind of thinking when you were like, he gonna be on a Sonetta's channel, and you were like, I really want people to get into this as far as the Indian slave trade? What was one of the questions that you had as far as in your mind about that?
Well, the question that I mainly had, because I think that people get a misunderstanding when it comes down to a person of our hue using the word Indian. I mean, that's one thing that I wanted him to attack. Is he speaking on the indigenous copper colored people of America when he says that? Because for some reason, in the minds of those who have not educated themselves yet, they think Indian is the people who look like Tonto. So that's one thing I wanted him to address. And the other thing that stays on my mind about the misunderstanding is the Trail of Tears. People don't understand what the Trail of Tears is. They never ask anybody to explain what that is and why that was. So those are the two questions that I had for our brother, if he could explain those two things. Because using the word Indian might miss a person, may be confused. You understand what I'm saying, OTK?
Yeah. I totally understand. For one, we know that Indian was being used here first. Indigenous will be the closest word that I see when people saying indigenous to Indian.
So is
Then
Indian
they have all the letters in it. I think
is it,
that the Indian letter came from the Indian word came from indigenous. We're still doing research to find if anybody over here was calling themselves Indian or Indios or anything like that. But we know what the meaning of it was. You know, forget the slave narrative story, or the other story tells you that he was sailing and he ended up in the wrong place. No,
that was misnomer.
It's a misnomer also because we know that during a certain time of the year, coming from that part of the world, you don't have no control over no vessel, especially when you're dealing with wind. All right, it wasn't no motorized vehicles back then. Now, it wasn't no steam engines or nothing. Now, these people were dealing with wind and stars and moons and suns. That's what they was dealing with, astrology. That's why it was a shocking thing to them. That's why when he went back, he said, you know what? All we need is 50 people, 50 guns, you know what I'm saying? And we can take over these people if he was real. So that right there lets you know that these couldn't be the people of Hindustan. Or he even thought that they was the people of Hindustan. You know,
But
so when we use the word Indian, we know that this is the first label, if you want to say they put that on us or whatever like that. This is the first label that they use calling us by to say who we are. We are the people of America. You know what I mean? Later on being America. That India term didn't come on till later. And even India is trying to get their name back to Bharat or either Hindustan. But Hindustan more come from the religion of Hinduism. You know what I mean? That word. So, you know, that's another story though. But I hope that would answer your question. That's my thoughts, baby. You know what I mean?
Right,
That's my thoughts.
right. And everything that you're saying was on point. And a lot, you know, and a lot of times people are still under the impression that he said that the people here reminded him of the people in India. And that's not what he said. And because from my understanding, there was no place called India at the time, correct? It was
correct.
He used to remind him of the people in the East, in the
correct.
East.
The closest thing you will find probably to Indian will be Indus.
Right.
You know what I mean? Talking about a valley range, and then when you come over here, you see the Andes, but the A and the I can be interchangeable. It's spelt the same, just the A and the I is, you know, and then the E and the U. So that goes with grammar. You know what I mean? So depending on who's writing and who's doing the talking at the time. That's another thing we all got to realize, that you might see multiple stories at the same era. Don't take one story, take all of those stories, because it was different people in the area doing different things at the time, and they was writing different things. So the whole thing about it is we don't so-called believe all of their stories that they're writing, but we look at it and then we compare it, we research it, we try to find more than one things that's saying it, and then we look at it from the natural point of view. They wouldn't writing this shit for us to read. They was writing it for their own damn peoples.
Well, you did say the main thing. We didn't give ourselves that name. We did not put that name on ourselves. We were tribal
Not
people.
that we know of yet. Yeah, not that we know of yet. No, we all call ourselves by our chieftain names, by rivers. You know what I'm saying? Our rivers was named after us. Our roads, everything like that was named after us or our chieftains that we was a part of.
Again, excuse me. Nene said she didn't get the link. I'm gonna just tell hers in the chat so she can just hit it from the chat.
Yeah, can I don't know, real quick, because I do think that Sister Freedom is raising a good point. I mean, a little bit, especially when we're talking about like East Indies and West Indies, because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between the two. That the East Indies is like near China, and the West Indies is more so our area, the Caribbean. But I think the pitfall comes in is that both inhabitants are called Indian. And I think that, you know, we have to keep in mind that our interest is on the Western hemispheres, the West Indies. So I think that that's a huge misconception when it's around this word Indian in general, you know, because I know that obviously the inhabitants of the country, India, are called Indians as well. People from Taiwan and all of, they're called Indians, but we need to keep it in perspective that it's on this side, our side, in the Americas is where we need to keep our interest at.
Correct. And that's the problem. It got spreaded abroad into Hindustan later. You know what I mean? So that's what started causing the conflict. And also when you do your research, sometimes you got to be careful, because if you just type in Indian and don't put American in front, you might find some stuff about India. You know what I mean? And don't find out until later, after you're reading knee deep inside that research, that they're talking about people from Hindustan or Bharat or Bharat, or however they want to pronounce it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to butcher their name up. You know what I mean? But yeah. So you definitely got to do your due diligence and do the research.
Yes, for sure. So what is the American Indian? What is the American Indian slave trade, OTK? And who were the people? Or who would identify them by tribes? Like, how was that whole setup? What is that about?
Oh man. The American Indian slave trade, also POWs of war, the American POWs in America. A lot of people don't like to say slave trade, and I get where they coming from. You know, us being superior over here and the masters of the land over here. You know, it's kind of a downgrading thing to say that we slaves. You know what I'm saying, like that. But the name, we just using this name slave for a term. I like to say POW because we see most of the people that's involved in the 90% of the people that's involved with the American Indian trade or slave trade were POWs after a war. We must also get to know that. Now, let's talk about the American Indian slave trade. If they want to throw slave trade, because they like to throw this up. Oh, y'all was enslaving y'all own people. Okay, all right. So now the way that we had our slave trade, I'm just using slave for the narrative, y'all, just for the narrative. The way that we had our slave trade, this is the reason why I say it's POWs, is because after we had a conflict with another chieftain or whatever like that, say somebody in my chieftain lost a male, okay, then we will capture a male, we will get a male out that chieftain right there, bring him back to us. We don't enslave them as far as chattel slavery, or what they call chattel slavery. They will become part of that chieftain. They will get to marry inside of that chieftain and all, because that prevents incest. You feel me? So if I lost my brother and then I captured a man, I will bring another man home that's the age of my brother and bring him home to my mama and be like, look, I love my brother's gone, but look, we got to make do with this right here. What do you want to do? And we find these in stories. Okay, during this trade. So we already had a form of what they will call slavery over here already, but it wasn't what they call chattel slavery, like whooping people, like what the hell you see off Roots. I still very rarely see a story that's written about Roots where they get whipped and all of this crazy stuff like this right here, that narrative that they put in our brains when I was in 5th grade. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so the American Indian slave trade actually is the beginning of the so-called transatlantic slave trade. The first, De Soto or Columbus, whether you admit that they real or not, y'all, they didn't bring no African slaves over here or no European slaves. They brought indentured servants with them. The first people they started taking back was people from Hispaniola, or what we call today Haiti and the Dominican Republic and the conjoining them surrounding islands that's right around that little area. It's a bunch of little islands around that. After he left Hispaniola, they went to other islands. By the time they got back, half of them been done die because of the travel. So when he got back, I think he only had like 200. Some stories say 400. And when he brought them to the queen said, hold on, free these people. As long as they adhere by the queen and they pledge their allegiance to the queen, these are free people. You know, they try to splurge them around the market and all of that. That's that type of stuff like that. So the story goes, you know, at the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. So they did this to these people. So what happened was, once she freed these people, a lot of them stayed out of that first group. They stayed in Europe. They became what you would call indentured servants in the households. Some of them became prominent people. I'm gonna do a later bill on that because I'm trying to find all the names of them boys. You know what I'm saying? All of them. Later on, they start going back as mestizos once they start mixing in with the indigenous people. They start taking their own kids them back to Europe and be prominent and run their business back in Europe while they was still progressing on over here or whatever like that. So that's another story. But yeah, so after that happened, this is when the Pope them boys sent them boys back with the dumb diverses, baby. Now, this is when they came with the Bible, the Geneva Bible, or whatever Bible they want to call it. They came with the Bible, and now this is when they start putting the American Indians underneath persecution in these islands. They was island hopping, but it took them a while before they started getting into the interior. But that's the beginning of the American Indian slave trade. They didn't bring nobody from Africa for a long, long time. So after 1500s, once they started finding out about America, North America, and once things got situated, they started just transporting people from the conjoining islands, the Caribbeans, to America, back to like Mexico, Central America, back on to the Caribbeans, back on up. This is the real triangle slave trade that nobody talks about. They try to keep out of history, but how can you keep it out of history when they're saying what they're doing?
OTK, repeat that. You said the real triangular trade was what? I didn't hear.
The real triangle slave trade was coming from the Americas to what we call Mexico, Central America area, that Mexico area, to the Caribbeans, to the Caribbean, part of Brazil and all that, and then back up to the Americas. That happened for hundreds of years before any African or so-called enslaved African came over here. So you talking about Barbados and all of these places, all of these islanders was coming up. And at the same time, they was grabbing people from up north, bringing them down through Charleston, because we see at a certain point, more American Indians got shipped out of Charleston than Africans brought in.
Right.
And now when we talk about these Africans, another question we got to raise, who are these Africans? Are they saying they're Africans because they're Negroes, or are they white Africans? And so I just did a bill today about the Ladinos. And in 1508 and 1507, they stopped bringing Ladinos, which were the Negroes at the time, the blacks. They stopped bringing them to Hispaniola because Hispaniola was too overpopulated by them. So they put out a edict to the queen like, yo, stop. And she stopped. But guess what they started doing? Shipping the white Africans here to Hispaniola. So at the height of this American Indian or this transatlantic slave trade, they had over 1 million Europeans enslaved in Africa.
Over 1 million?
So now that's why we over 1 million. So that's why we have to ask the question, well, who is these Africans that's coming over? Are they white? Are they black? Y'all just calling them Negroes because they say African? When we got research saying that they sent white Africans over here. They call them blancos, slaves. Blanco esclavos. And these are some of the this is up underneath y'all could go and research. It's called African Explorers in America. You will find it up underneath that.
Oh no,
and
you know, I know.
they were
yeah, no, that's a good point. Absolutely. That's why I'm so excited about Sunday on HOK about us having this conversation, because, you know, there's so many, it's really a narrative, and it's very unfortunate because at the end of the day, any form of slavery, right, however we want to remix that, that's still a horrific type of labor for anybody to go through, right? But it has impacted our identity so much here in the Americas, because we have allowed books and sources and white scientists to tell us who we are. And we say that that is something that we should listen to over, you know, our own family tree. That's wild to me. But they always say that if you're trying to annihilate, or if you're trying to control a population, you get them with the mind. Why would you? You don't need to waste guns. You don't need to waste money on a physical war. What you do is you finesse a whole generation just with their mind. And if I could get you to believe that you are nothing more than a slave, or that all of your ancestry starts with slavery, that already puts you in the, you know, in the losing lane. You're already off with one boot on. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So
I mean, what money did they have, Dots? We got to understand, in the 1400s, this important. Is what you will call the Dark Ages. Very over there. Important. They was just coming out of plague.
And it is important.
That's why I tell people they got to study world history. If you trace that Bible will take you through a quick history class. To trace that Bible, because that Bible is going to trace you through the wars. The wars is going to start naming people, and it's going to help your timeline. But yeah, they was going through famine and all kind of stuff. This is one of the main reasons why they kicked the Moors and all of them out in 1492.
Yeah.
Because the area was going desolate, pretty much. They was trying to take back over, like, hold on, y'all raping us. It wasn't no gold trade or none of that. The gold was over here. They was printing their gold coins over here. This was the whole funding of them warring with each other over there. That's why in 1715, when that goddamn boat wrecked on the coast of Florida going up to St. Augustine, with the Queen's Anne's jewel on it, trying to get back to Spain to fund their war. When that wrecked, that's where the Spanish Armada is no more. Now this was when you see French take over. This is how French takes over all the Spanish territories.
Yeah.
Your boy Napoleon.
One thing I can say, OTK, that if by any chance, if we were African, why wouldn't we have had that name from the beginning of the enemy coming over here? That always puzzles me as
They
to why.
didn't even have that name. The only people that was called Africa will be your people that's in Northern Africa. Those will be your Moroccans, your Libyans, your Moors, your Sephardic Jews, your Moristos, your Conversos, your Berbers, your French Huguenots. All of them are in this Iberian Peninsula area in Northern Africa area.
Right.
They can ride a horse across. They literally connected now. A part of them is connected. They can ride a horse across.
So see, there's something.
I was gonna share this clip, and then I wanted to get into more of that Caribbean Triangle slave trade. We're gonna let Big Chief and Sweet Feather talk really quick, and then you expand on that OTK of the Stono Rebellion, Barbados. Yes, and that connection between South Carolina and Barbados, since you are the South Carolina historian.
And that's
now that will fall into the American Indians, because we know that the American Indians, such as laws like the 1740 Act passed after the Stono Rebellion in 1739, the Stono Indians in South Carolina, which later they made it into an African story, but actually there's a nation called the Stono Indians who battled for that port of Charleston since before the arrival of the Goose Creek men. They actually battled for that territory, the Stono Indians. Yeah, the Stono River there, and that rebellion was actually them. If we go into the original document of the 1740, I think it was Article 4, 2 or 4, it speaks about the law was passed because of the Indians, the Stono Rebellion. But
well, Chief, can I add on to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because that law was passed. It's called the 1740 Act, but that was the last part of it that started in the 1660s in Barbados, which was referred to as the Act for the Better Ordering of Slaves. Now, in this document, they mention American Indians. In fact, they say Indians, and they do not mention Africans at all or that terminology. And there was a series of acts with that. It was a Bayesian planter who had gone to South Carolina or to the Carolinas area at the time and was discussing what to do with the population of people there, specifically the hostiles or the American Indians. But what we see, from, we can really say the 1500s in La Florida, when the Spanish missionaries were dealing with the Calusa Empire, the Mocama chiefdom, the Timapuas, and those missionaries couldn't get a footing of their settlement. And so what they did was send a lot of those Indians down to Cuba because it's a straight shot there. They sent them to the Caribbean as well. But when you get into the 1600s, and you mentioned this earlier, you have a very long list. From 1611, you can go to the Powhatan's War when Ope-Chacano and the Virginia merchants were like, no, we have to get rid of these Indians, and they sent them where? To Barbados. Then you have the 1630s, the Pequot Wars, where they sent them in the Narragansett down to Barbados. There were a lot of acts and legislation during that time that are in the books of Massachusetts that speak about that. And if you can pull up one of the slides, they have that. Metacon wrote a speech in 1675 about he not wanting to go to, or any of his people being sent to Barbados anymore. They were scattered throughout the Caribbean. So those 20 and odd Negroes, what ethnicity would be?
Fire Bill, man. Shout out to
And of
Master
course,
Chief.
Dots is Barbados or anything, but we're just interviewing OTK right now, Sister Freedom.
Yes.
Of course,
I
Dots
got
is
I
Barbados.
have that in my I have that in my genealogy pool too. That's why I brought up that picture about these Barbadians. All right, cuz love y'all. That's why I brought up the picture about what they have inside the state house over here in our county house of the Barbadians and what they post that look like, and saying that they were slaves and they was from Africa. That's why I brought up that picture, that same picture that was shown. Now, this is before the Goose Creek men. All right. So the Goose Creek men are entangled. Man, listen. All right, we can get into that, but go ahead, Dulcie.
No. I wanted both of y'all to get into that Barbados, the connection between South Carolina, and as we can see, not only South Carolina, but Indians are, when they're being seen as hostile Indians or these rebellious Indians, these rebellions that they rid over and said that they're African, that they're sending them into the Caribbean and Barbados.
Hey, so let me tell y'all a story I ran across.
Big up Barbados.
They say Barbados was the get right island. Like when Indians will act up and rebel, they send them to Barbados.
You know what's interesting? Interesting? Oh, sorry, OTK, you got it.
You good. I'm gonna give you this. And they're not from South Carolina to Barbados. They all the way up from Maine, New York, all of the states. They was bringing them from up there to South Carolina because that was the quickest route down there. You see what I'm saying? And then they will bring them back through Charleston and then ship them back up top, the other ones. So all they was doing like some people got to come back. Some people actually got to come back. Like they went down there, did their servitude, and then they came back up. A lot of them stayed and made a family and a life there and end up becoming owners themselves. But go ahead, Dots.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think it did even a document on the slavevoyage.org. If I'm not mistaken, no, maybe it wasn't on slavevoyage.org, but there's documents that does show you, right, like who the renters of the land was, right, like in Barbados, because of course sugar, was like the number one
big
export.
Big sugar.
Yeah, cane sugar. And
sugar cane. We still got sugar canes here.
Yes.
Right now. Yes, we do. We still eat on that today. Sugar canes. Facts. Go ahead, Docs.
But what's interesting is that my Nana, who we call Nana, right? My mother's mother. Okay. So she was from Barbados. Her father, though, was 100% Blackfoot. And the story goes, right, is that, he came from the Americas. So still, I'm not sure whether or not he was banished to Barbados, sent to Barbados, right? Because he was deemed a problem. I don't know if it's because of necessarily him, like what you would call being a merchant seaman of today. But my Nana, my mother's mother, was always very clear on her father's people, which would be my great-grandfather. No, my great-great-grandfather, my grandmother's father. But yeah, he was 100% Blackfoot, and he was from the United States. And Barbados always had a very special relationship with the United States of America. And what's interesting is Barbados was one of the islands, it's very small, but it was one of the islands out of all of the Caribbean islands that was last to be colonized, right? So from the time that this alleged, Columbus dude, right? Christopher Columbus, that person, came over to what they said is Hispaniola, which is DR in Haiti in the 1400s. But from that time to the 1600s, that's over 100 plus years, there were many attempts, right? Of them trying to invade the island, so to speak. But them Indians, them men and women were getting busy. They could not penetrate the island of Barbados. They wasn't
Correct.
having it. Them Caribs was not playing. You heard me? So
they was
Barbados has always had a special soul and
Yes.
rhythm and a connection back and forth to the United States. But not only that, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but even the alleged first president of the United States, right, or George Washington. So his half brother, George Washington actually lived in Barbados, and visited Barbados many times a year, right?
A lot of them came from Barbados, right?
Yeah, a lot of them came from Barbados. So you know, it's just very interesting. I'm really into it because again, I'm very clear necessarily on like my genealogy. And my Nana always talked about her father, right? Being a really good horseman, right? Like, and I don't know if that's where I get my love of horse riding from, you know, because your girl can ride a horse now, okay?
I know
and
that's right.
It's in the blood. It's in the blood. I don't know, but it's in the blood. Don't ask me.
Pause, y'all. Pause, y'all. Pause, y'all. She can ride a horse, but pause,
silly.
y'all.
That's so silly. But they will tell you that the Black people that's in Barbados comes from Africa, right? Like that island wasn't inhabited.
That's the narrative. That's the narrative.
Slave trade and all that other BS. Absolutely not. And the one thing my Nana always told me, and y'all probably have heard me say this before because I've said this on this show a few times. When I went away to college, my grandmother said to me two things. She said, do not come back home telling me you African and telling me that you came from monkeys and apes. So that was like her two things when she sent me off to school, right? Because I was going to a predominantly white university, upstate New York. She was like, the only thing I have to say to you is do not come back home telling me that you African and that you come from monkeys and apes. Hand to God.
Let me ask you this: Did that school teach you that?
She was blue black, OTK. She was dark.
No, I'm asking you, Dots. Did that university? Did they teach you that?
About what? Me being an African?
You was black, that you was African, and that did they teach you that?
Oh, big time. And not only, and in order to pass the class, you needed to have made sure that you memorized and spit out that information. I always tell the story. When I was in my Anthropology 101 college class, I had a paper. We had to do out basically a paper on our genealogy, our family tree. So your girl goes home, right, for a weekend or whatever. I speak to my Nana, of course, right? And she begins to talk about our family tree, like where we come from. Never mention Africa. So I write my paper. I type up my paper. I submit it. And I got a C+ on the paper. And the professor wrote, this paper would have been an A, but you got a C+ because you're Black and you didn't put that you come from Africa. Because obviously I'm Black in the United States. So by default, why didn't I write about being of African descent? But yet, so what does that tell a student that's in college, right? That says to you, you better parrot this information. And if you want to pass this class, right. And if you want to pass this class, then you better write, what we agree for you to write, not what the truth is, not what your grandmother said, who's the primary source to your family tree. She's the living, primary source to your family tree. No. Screw what she said. The book said this, and you were supposed to write that. So that tells you to get in line. That's academia for you. Absolutely.
Right.
I totally agree.
And that's why I used to always bring, man, we used to have fights, man. People don't know. Hey, this ain't nothing new. This ain't really no special interview, y'all. This is really they sisters and brother getting together again. You know what I mean? But we've been doing this like 4 years, 3.5 years ago. These was all I had was these sisters right here. You know what I mean? And they took me in, and even they thought I was kicking rhetoric then to them until, I just kept kicking it and kicking it and kicking it. You know what I mean? And Dosey played with me one night. Dosey was like, nah, OTK, come up. I was like, man, I don't got no time to play with you tonight, Dosey. Y'all done beat me up last night. I'm good. She said, no, I found people, the Indians that look just like you. I said, don't tell me you found the Black Indians. She said, come on up. So, you know, and ever since then, man, I always kept telling y'all, just do your own genealogy. Do your genealogy and see if your genealogy fit the story and the narrative that they kicking, especially in your area. And shout out to my sister Nisha, who still stand fast to this day. Yeah, she got American Indian in her, but she can also say, yeah, go ahead, my sister Nisha. GA in the house.
When we drop the link, y'all can hit the link anytime. Y'all can hit the link, y'all. I'll drop the link again if y'all want to come up.
Can I go back to something real quick?
Yeah, before you drop the link and they come up and asking questions, make sure y'all through first. And
yeah, because I did have a couple more things I wanted to ask. Go ahead, Ray.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, I wanted to go back to that OTK was saying about. I mean, maybe I misheard it, but I think I did hear it. Something to the effect of like not having money, and you know, I think in terms of how things were exchanged or sold or traded, because I'm sure like there was other things in place of money that was used to sell and buy people. Maybe like goods, maybe alcohol, maybe tobacco, maybe guns. I'm not sure to the extent of who had what, but maybe that could have been looked at as some form of monetary. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I didn't make it clear.
Yeah,
so I was talking
all.
about them. I was talking about them over there in the Eastern world. They didn't have no need for money, and if they did, their money would be silver.
Got you. Okay.
At the time, it would not be gold. Remember now, before we use pearls, you know, pearls and seashells and stuff as a commodity of trade over here in North America. We didn't value gold. We didn't value silver. We didn't value these things. We wore these things to show significance and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't value these things like how they did. You see what I'm saying? So when they saw gold and stuff, they was like, shit, they started minting coins right there in the Caribbeans. Coins was getting minted in the Caribbeans and then going back on ships back to them to fund their wars because they always in war with each other. And guess what the war was about, sis? Who's going to have the most control over America? These new lands, the new world, what they call it, but really the old world. So then that makes you think. Remember, the whole scenario tell us that Africa had all the gold. Well, where the gold trade at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I got more
you
stuff,
ain't
but
even
I'm
see nothing about diamonds. You ain't even see nothing about no diamond trade over there back then. This is all new. This is all America loved diamonds. That's why diamonds became so significant. Everybody follows America trend.
Everybody.
That lets you know. That's why I understand these people when they say, yo, we going and we brought civilization, not civilization, or colonize or whatever they want to say over in other places. Sometimes I can truly understand that because I see don't nothing transpire without America hand in it.
OTK, did you already talk about indentured servitude in regards to the American Indian slave trade? And the difference, and like the difference between Indians who arrived by sea and then Indians who might have arrived by land that were like considered hostile Indians. Like, do you know a little bit about that, or can you touch on that?
Say that question one more time. Let me make sure I hear that question right again, sis. Go ahead.
Like in terms of like Indians who might have arrived in the colonies or non-Christian, you know, obviously during this doctrine of discovery, you know, converted Christians, etc., like within these colonies. And when we're talking about people or Indians who might have been shipped, but you know, I'm talking about like being shipped here, like whether it's arriving by sea or in terms of arriving by land, like the Indians who arrived on land or by land rather were usually considered hostile Indians. Can you talk about their indenturedness? Like, was there a sense of indenturedness, or was there a difference even within American Indian slavery between Indians who were indentured and Indians who were outright slaves?
Can I say something while you said that? Because I got kind of confused on that too, on that question.
Okay.
You said Indians that arrived. Now, from my understanding, are you saying, okay, the people that was already over here are the indigenous people to America,
Mhm.
right? Anybody that would come over is not. So
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. So
When I'm saying arrive, they
She's talking about the intra-American
The Indians
slavery.
from the
So
Caribbean.
you can
The Americans
arrive
from the Caribbean.
from
Yeah.
South Carolina into Barbados.
Yes,
Thank you, babe.
yes, from the
That's what I'm
Caribbean.
talking about. Yeah, because I know we're still on the Barbados,
Caribbean.
South Carolina thing. So that's where I was trying
Yes,
to say.
yes.
Yeah.
okay, because I was
So-
getting kind
so-
of confused there. I was like, wait a minute, if the people here indigenous to America, so you talking about indigenous people from other places coming over here, and now they're being called Indian too? That's why I was
No. Oh, yeah, I got you, sis. No,
No,
yes.
yeah, that's not what I meant.
So
That's right.
the
Yeah,
Caribs, the people from Brazil, top part of Brazil, the Caribs, the people from Central Mexico, what we call it, Mexico and stuff like that was being brought here, they was Indians too. Remember
they-
now, the people of Hispaniola was the first to be called. The people in the islands was the first to be called Indians.
I think now Indian is just another
They
word
didn't know
for-
nothing about North America yet. They didn't know nothing about North America yet.
So is Indian another
So-
word for copper color people?
Yes, it is. Yes,
That's what I'm
yes, it
just
is.
making sure. It just
Yes.
seemed like all these words are different. Okay.
Yes.
I'm
So
just making
so it was not only used as a descriptive term, it was used as a placement term. Like,
Okay.
these are the people from over there. And this term was being used for us. You even see Americans. You know where they mix America with Indian when they say these American Indians, they just call them Americans. You see this a lot too. Do your research on the Americans. You know what I mean? Because when they started, some people, when they was using the word Indian, they started using it in a bad way, meaning savage and all of this right here, and hostile, and like sis was talking about, these hostile people being called Indians also. But that's what when certain people was using this. You understand what I'm saying?
I just want to make
So-
sure that I'm mentally okay with them. You just said that Indian is just another misnomer for our color people, for copper color people. Now I get it. Because at first I wasn't getting how she was, how Sister Sharice was saying it. I wasn't getting it.
But it
I
ain't
was-
no longer a misnomer. It sticks to us, and we accepted it, and now
Right.
we rolling with it, and y'all can't get it back.
Straight
up.
nickname now.
Yeah, I'm only bringing that up. I'm sorry, Sister.
When she said it, when Sister Sharice
Grandmama I put that on grandmama.
I just want to make sure mentally that it
Yes,
was
she was understanding.
my mind, and then people's minds that are hearing it, that Indian is just another word for copper color people around the world at that time, or now at this time, or however, right? Because the word African wasn't there yet.
And
They weren't calling Africans. They weren't
do
calling
y'all
Africans.
also
they weren't even calling
Right.
it
y'all also remember before this copper color was being used? Do y'all remember a time when they was saying that they resemble the people of the Canary Islands? Do y'all remember this when they was describing us? No. Okay. So
Is that what Jack D. Forbes?
before people start saying the copper colored, Canary was out there, or they resemble the people of Canary Islands. So this is what they was using to try to correlate us in the Americas and in the Caribbean islands to Africa, because the Canary Islands are islands off the western coast, northern western coast of Africa. But guess what? They say they not African. And guess what they look like? Copper-colored people.
Mm-hmm.
Do
So
your research on the Canary Islands.
All this is just a misunderstanding because of the color of our skin.
Because
around
that's why we just got to go off of what we're reading, because it wasn't written for us, but it's so many different people that's writing about us.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
You never answered it, but that's what I wanted you to
we're
explain.
taking their story. We're taking their story that they wrote about us, and we comparing it to our story, what grandmama said about us.
Yeah.
If that
Say
makes sense.
Say that again so people can get it. I got it.
I say we're taking the story that they give us, and we're comparing it to the story of what grandmama said to us.
That's deep.
Cross-referencing.
And we choose to believe the enemy's story over what grandmama said.
Yeah, because it was written in a book.
So I don't got no problem with nobody saying that they a slave from Africa. Dog, if you a slave from Africa, then so be it. Then more joy be to you. I ain't got no problem. I'm not saying everybody that look like me is an Indian in America. No, I'm not saying that. Find yourself in the story. I'm saying I got my story. My peoples, then we got our story. We know who we are. We still here. Yes, some came and a lot went. A lot more went than more came. I tell you that much. You know what I'm talking about? But but that's just how I deal with it. Hey, Sister Niche.
Hey, so would it be just the name? Would it be just the name Indian that bothers people so much? Like if we were, if the quote unquote Indians, the Tato looking people, if that's what they were named, then you have people that look like us. We were called the Sabuhus. Would you think that would be a problem? So is it just the name? Is all of this over the name?
I think it is, baby. Just like when some people use more, I know when some people using more, they're using it as a descriptive term to say black, and not as far as tying themselves to religious ties. So I know how to separate when somebody's talking about more. So it's just like more. It's just like Aboriginal. Shit, it's just like Asian. It's just like European. It's just like African. These are titles that was given to us to describe us. And then one thing I realized is in America, because we've been so indoctrinated for so long, is that it's so much levels of indoctrination that we got to deal with. And I'm an older cat, and I'm telling you, I've been indoctrinated with the church and school. You understand what I'm saying, sis? And it's so much levels of indoctrination that it's so much work to do. I think that when you just throw that out there, that hey, you know, when you trace your genealogy, 9 times out of 10, if you trace your peoples them back here, I guarantee you they probably say they Indian. And when you say that kind of mess with some people the wrong way, because they get this narrative off the movies, off these Western stage plays of other white people acting as American Indians who actually was living amongst American Indian chieftains. I did a bill on this when I did the Pretendians bill and the $5 Indian bills. This is what led to the $5 Indians. They lived with these people so long and learned them so long and making these stage plays and rolling with them till they ended up becoming parts of these tribes. Because they could walk the walk and act the act. This is the beginning of your $5 Indians, y'all. Your Pretendians.
Everybody in copper color anyway.
You know, your old girl off of Sesame Street. You know what I'm saying? You know?
But Nisha, you never.
Nisha, I think if we just go by the term, American, or we just go by the term indigenous. Or better yet, I tell you what, Nisha, if I just go by the name, I'm a Carolinian, or if I just use my chieftain, Etowah or Buchewi, or Siwi, or Stono, or goddamn Edisto, or Santee, or Congaree, or if I use
They
any
not
one of
gonna
these,
accept
or
it. They gonna
Plimacune,
say you ain't no damn Erdogan. You ain't no
right,
damn Stone.
They
They're not gonna accept it because
right,
they gonna say you African. They're not gonna accept it no
right,
matter what. It's
right,
sovereign. They're not gonna accept it.
right. Right. And
That is
see, and
true.
this the thing. And when you bring it out, and I showed them that when these French came over here in 1700s, when they saw the Etowah people of Charleston, and I show you they went to Goose Creek, when they saw them, they say these people were dark chestnut.
Well, you
Come on,
never
man.
did. Listen, you never explained the first question I asked you. Where, when, why, and how? What was the reason for the Trail of Tears? What was it? What made the Trail of Tears actually happen? And I mean, and that can go for anybody to jump in with, and if they got, some more they want to add on to that.
Treaties, man. Treaty that never got fulfilled. So when we talking about the Trail of Tears, we only dealing with the 13 Continental Congress or the 13 United States. You know what I mean? When
Is
we
this
dealing
where the
with
enemy
treaty,
went in? Is this where the enemy invaded these different places that you're talking about? The 13.
they was already here. What we call the enemy, they was already here, and by this time, baby, you got to understand. The Spanish came with the dumb diverses in the South trying to bogart and run shit. That's why De Soto didn't get but so far before Tuscaloosa and Copachequi, them boy ran his ass up out of there. And he had to snatch up Lady Copachequi, who was the niece of Copachequi. You know what I'm saying? In order to escape. And then she escaped to get through. The first Pocahontas story. You know what I'm talking about in the 1500s? Spanish
OTK,
didn't
you
have no
sound
foothold. Go ahead, my bad.
No, you got it. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the first time where you see the Spanish trying to gain foothold. They try to gain other colony when they came up the coast, but that shit didn't last neither. So the Spanish came with the dumb diverses, Papa's Bull. They try to bogart their way. Spanish, Portuguese, but the Portuguese never had a colony in North America. The Spanish had somewhat of a colony, but in Florida they established one. The French and the English, them boys came on a whole nother level. They came on some man, we trying to get away from them, man. They not the same as us. They different. We're not the same. And these people had dark skin too. These pilgrims, they had dark skin too. These Virginia first people who started Jamestown, they had dark skin too. But they came with the Bible and they came with some attacking our spirituality system, more or less. They came on some friendship. Once they learned how to grow shit and shit like that, after the first Thanksgiving, this is when you see they turn on us later on.
So what I'm trying to find out is during the invasion of the Spaniards or whoever came over on these lands to rob, steal, to do everything.
They didn't cause the Spanish had nothing to do with the Trail of Tears. This was all agreements and after wars.
Right, but the Spaniards
And
was
this is when you see
and terrorizing the people of this land, correct?
No, baby. The islands, yes. The islands, yes. Bottom part of Florida, maybe yes. Parts of the Gulf, the bottom parts of the Gulf, maybe yes. But they really did all the action inside the Caribbeans and shit like that, the Spanish and the Portuguese.
So what people came over here, invaded,
the English, the French, and the British, the Dutch, which they are pretty much the same. But anyway, Anyway, but
So what
yeah,
you find is when the Indians, whatever race came over here to invade, steal, rob, rape, kill, to steal the land from the people.
that's another narrative, baby. That's another narrative about this raping shit. Remember, the slave narrative is that damn near every African slave got raped by a European. That's why they got European ancestry.
Right.
This is what I was taught.
Yeah.
These are lies.
Yeah. They're what, OTK? Say it again. They're what?
These are lies. These are lies. Come on, man. These are lies.
Listen, I hope y'all hitting that like button.
I ain't never say the Pilgrims was in Virginia. I say the Virginians. Those would be your Anglos. The Anglos was in Virginia. They set up Jamestown. The Pilgrims never made it to Virginia, even though they had a charter to come over here from the king and the queen, gave them a charter of indentured servitude. Everything that they made over here, they had to send back to the king or queen for 7 years. These first Pilgrims, only 50 of them survived. They only made it to what is now today, Boston or whatever the fuck it is now. Boston. Yeah, they made it to Boston or whatever that is. Wherever the Pilgrims made it at. What they call that shit, y'all?
They came to the Mayflower. That'd be
Yeah,
at
with the
the
Mayflower.
Virginia,
Yeah.
New
Yeah,
Hampshire, Maine.
what they call that shit in Boston where they landed at? The Mayflower landed at. They got the rock. 1619, 1620.
Plymouth Rock. Yep.
There you go. They were supposed to go to Virginia because they had a charter from the Queen, from the King James. Man, King James said, you know what? Y'all motherfucking Protestants, y'all fucking with the Bible and all of that shit like that, dog. Y'all fucking with us because y'all telling people that the word don't come from the king, it come from God. Get y'all ass up out of here. So he signed their charter and tell them, get the fuck up out of here. But whatever y'all gain over there, y'all owe us. Once they landed in fucking Plymouth and didn't make it to Virginia, they separated their goddamn self after a while. This is when they met the Powhatans. All right?
Right.
This is the
And
other
can we talk
Pocahontas
about
story. This will lead into your other Pocahontas story. All right? This is when they met Chief Powhatan.
the fiction stories. But can we talk about that really quick? Because when you're getting into all these are companies. So you got the Mayflower Company, you got the Virginia Company, you got the Narragansett Company. So when it comes to these companies, you know, they want us to believe that they came in, they made a foothold, they were raping people, they were taking the people and enslaving them or anything. Can we talk about how bad these companies were failing for a little bit? even the Royal African Company.
These companies would not be successful without the help of the American Indian. They wasn't doing no such thing. No such thing. Like I said, once they had enough of their kind over here, that's when the shit started flipping and hitting the fan. But it was all a trade thing. I even got stories with with Edawans and them boys and the seaweed them boys. They was like, man, fuck all this fur trade with the middleman. Y'all motherfucker dog, we about to sail with our own furs back to England. God damn it. We done watched the way y'all go. We about to follow y'all. But a storm hit their ass. You know what I'm saying? And the ones that ended up living, they got put into slavery in Barbados.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, so these companies, Dosey, that you're talking about. All right.
Facts. And we can go and expand on a little of they didn't start really be succeeding until they started, you know, having Indian help. So can we talk about a little bit of the wars as far as how that came across, like the Yamasee Wars, the Tuscarora Wars? You even talked about the fur trade and the French and Indian Wars. Because people like to bring up the wars, but they don't know shit about them. It seemed like.
Correct. So, but they like to talk about treaties too, but they don't know all treaties damn near come from wars or some type of conflict or some type of agreement, you know. So one of the first treaties that was made on this soil was from these pilgrims that came over. They made a treaty with the Powhatans. Okay. This treaty lasted a good while. So your boy, this is before the all right, let's go to the Anglos. Matter of fact, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to the Anglos, the people who came and did Jamestown, so-called Jamestown. Okay. So when they boys started exploring in the so-called place in Jamestown, they ran across the Powhatans, the chief Powhatan. So John Smith, everybody in his crew that was on this little land voyage where they was going inland got murdered. John Smith, they put his head on a rock and they got another rock about to crush his shit. Pocahontas, she laid over and said no. And they didn't do it because she was the daughter of Chief Powhatan. All right. So this is we talking about 1605, around 1605, 1607. Times change sometimes. So because of this connection, this is what starts the treaty with them. So John Smith went back to his peoples them and say, yo, dog, we got to start working ourselves. We got to start building ourselves on this land, getting our own food and all this, man. The Indians, they done helped us out enough. Pocahontas done helped us out enough. There's enough of this shit. They try to kill him. He gets shot by his own people, gunfire. He ended up having to leave and go back to Europe for treatment. So now, in the time of him leaving, a bunch of little bullshit starts happening now, because now these Anglos like, fuck that. We're going to go take these shit. You know what I'm saying? Take these shit from these Indians. We ain't about to work or do nothing, because they start dying off. So I think they crew went down to like 50 something at this time. So John Smith came back. Now I'm about to mix these stories together now. In case y'all don't know, it's a man named Squanto too that intertwines with this story during this time in the 1600s. Okay, so Squanto comes more from the coastline where the Pilgrims will land at Plymouth. Pocahontas comes more from the inland in Virginia where they got Jamestown. All right, I have to, damn, I wish I had the map to show y'all so I can bring y'all more with geography. So Jamestown was established first. All right, so that's the Pocahontas story. Pocahontas saved John Smith. Boom. Now they doing good trade.
You want me to pull up a map for you, OTK?
If you can find the Jamestown settlers map with the first Virginia settlement in Jamestown.
Jamestown settlement map?
Or colony. It might be settlement or it might be colony. It might be up on the one or the two.
Okay.
If I show anything, man, it's gonna mess up with my internet, man. Actually, my internet crashed that other day. But
okay.
Anybody can go fact check what I'm saying. Anyway, so where was I at? Well, Pocahontas. Okay, so Pocahontas already done that. So these Anglos, this at the time now, these are called Anglos, y'all. All right, this is the Anglos. Y'all look up the war with the Anglo-Powhatan Wars. All right, a lot of people don't know about this. It's called the Anglo-Powhatan War. So the Anglo-Powhatan War was going on during all this time. All right, so Pocahontas, what happened is the Powhatans captured some of the Anglos. So what they did is they tried to use a story like do a treaty, but they say, yo, we don't want to do nothing unless Pocahontas come, because she was like the mediator. Like they believed in her, but with her, they knew they could control the tribe or whatever, because that was the chief daughter, in other words. So they kidnapped her, kind of captured her, and say, look, we're not going to let her go until y'all let go our peoples, the chief Powhatan. So That was one of the first treaties that was made where they let them go and they let them go. They let her go and you know what I'm saying, and they let them go. So boom, boom, boom. So now Squanto comes into play because the Pilgrims come in around 1619. Remember the Pocahontas, she's like 11 years old in 1605, 1607. She's like 11, y'all. So Squanto comes in. So now Squanto is one of the guys that back to
You're breaking
goes
up.
to Europe. Okay. All right. So Squanto, y'all got me now? I'm with Squanto. Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Mic check 1 2.
Yep. You're coming in clear. You're coming in
Y'all can
clear.
hear me? Mic check 1 2.
Yep. Guys, as y'all coming in, don't forget to hit the like button, please.
Okay.
We appreciate y'all. You got it, OTK.
So okay, bye. Go ahead.
It's on you, OTK. You got it.
I think something may happen. He may have had to drop, so he should be coming back again.
Okay, so yeah, so we can share real quickly for Sunday. Let's do that real quick while OTK is getting his internet back together. I hope y'all enjoying the conversation. Hey y'all, Othello's in the building, y'all. Captain Crunch, Prez Love, Whirling Thunder, Powhatan, Tree Blood, Wisdom Show, Cosmin. What's up, Cosmin? Darvis was in the building, y'all. He came in popping it, talking about some more.
To your question, we're working on it. We just have to get with straight smoke, but yeah, that's been a long time coming. So we definitely need a logo. We for sure need a logo.
You sound like you underwater, Dulcie.
Yes, it's unclear, mama. This Sunday, OTK, you good now? Can you hear us?
Yeah, mic check 1 2. Y'all can hear me now? My fault.
Yes.
Y'all can hear me now?
Okay, so real quickly, OTK, for those of y'all just coming in, this Sunday, Dulcie and I is going to be on HOK, and it's called Lies My Teacher Told Me, Myths About the Slave Trade. So we are excited to have our big brother OTK here with us tonight because his build, he's also going to be on Thundetter, but his build definitely ties into what we're going to be talking about on Sunday at 7 p.m. We going to be in enemy territory, y'all, so we need y'all in the building, okay? We need y'all in the building heavy. But nah, it's going to be a good conversation. It's definitely going to be a good conversation. So as y'all come in, hit the like button, and thanks for rocking with us. OTK, you ready?
Yes, OTK. And I was gonna. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
The last thing y'all
You're
heard where
getting
I
some
left off
kind of
at.
eyes. You're getting a little bit of eyes in the chat right now. You're getting the kind of side look because, like Bad Saint wants to know, what do you believe for the people that say Pocahontas and the John Smith is just a fake, fabricated story all over,
It's
overall?
not. All right, well, let me finish up. Okay, wait, when I left off, where I left off at, when I was about to go into Squanto.
Yep, Squanto.
Okay, so Pocahontas in 1605, 1607 is 11 years old when she saved John Smith's life, y'all. Out of all his people, she saved his life. All right. He went back to his peoples them and say, yo, they not the savage what we think they is. You know what I mean? We got to do our own shit. He pulled up the Bible scripture, you know, for them boys and said, you know what I mean? A man don't work, a man that don't work, a man don't eat. You know, he pulled up a scripture for them boys. They try to kill him. So he had to go back to Europe. So for medical attention. During this time he went back to Europe, you see these Anglo-Powhatan wars start to kick off in Virginia. You know what I'm saying? So in the mix of that, you have a guy named Squanto who meets some England people, people from over there, and goes back with them. Not a slave, free American Indian. Him and like 9 other ones stayed there for like 9 years. Learn their ways, all of that. Taught them ways and all of that. Our American Indian ways and learn their ways. After 9 years, he said, yo, I want to come back. The rest of them say, yo, we're going to stay. So now these 9 Indians now, their DNA, if y'all want to use DNA, are over there now. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Their DNA is over there now. And they was high class coming over there because they was greeted by the kings and the queens. They was all of high stature. I don't care if you was the lowest sect of Indian leaving from over here. If you was just of the warrior or the fishing tribe. When you went over there, you was of royalty. All right? So now, he comes back. When he comes back, he sees that his people them pretty much done gone. You know what I mean? Man, you got a mixture of chieftains, man. God damn, Narragansett, the Powhatans, the goddamn Delawareans, man. This before all these people, all these states was named at this time. You know what I'm saying? So you got all of these American Indian chieftains in these areas at this time, man. And when he came back, it said a disease that hit this area. So his peoples then was gone. So he ended up going and chilling with the Delawares. Was they the Delawares? The Delaware Braves? With the Delaware Braves, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to misunderstand, but I know they was the Braves. So he went and he started being with them. So now I'm gonna pause with them. Now, at the same time now, Pocahontas thing is going on too now. They're doing around the same time, 1600s, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got James Smith coming back here. Hold on before I get into that. You know what? So your boy goddamn Squanto was over here. So now the Pilgrims came over here, whatever like that. Squanto, Somerset meets them. He teaches them. Somerset was like, yo, I speak English, but I speak English in my way. I don't speak y'all English. The English y'all got, I know somebody who's learned in y'all English, but that ain't our English, but we speak English. They was like, damn, this crazy. We can know a motherfucker who speak our shit. So he was like, nah, I know somebody who that's in my chieftain that speaks better. So boom, Squanto comes back. Squanto speaks hella language of them, Latin, all of this. Remember now, he's been tutored 9 years over there. So he's heavily influenced in Latin, Spanish, all of this shit over there. French, all of this shit. So once he comes, this is your boy Somerset with the Pilgrims. This is when you see another treaty. The first treaty with the Pilgrims now. All right? So check this shit out. So somehow Squanto gets his ass caught up. I lied. Squanto ended up back in fucking England. Okay, so John Smith brings here. He brings him back here. Remember I told y'all John Smith got injured? He brings him back here. So it's another dude that's with entourage on another ship. That's called Thomas Hunt.
Okay, wait.
If y'all not familiar with the Hunt, go ahead.
Real quick, I have a question. So far the major players we have John Smith, you said, right? We have Squanto. So we have Squanto.
Chief Powhatan.
Chief Powhatan.
You got Somerset.
Okay.
And you got Pocahontas.
Okay. So those like the 5. Okay. So far 5 major players. Okay, got it.
And she started in Virginia, and the family moved to Delaware.
So the Powhatans are in Virginia, in Jamestown area. And
Yep,
then
James
your boy
near King
was
William
it
County.
Delawareans or whatever like that. I'm gonna get the correct name. Those boys like where Squanto at, they're like on where the Pilgrims like Plymouth. They like Plymouth, Virginia.
And
Alright,
I
so
know
they
that
like at
he's
the,
truth
right off
about
the
that.
coast.
Just talking
Go
about.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I know that you're telling the truth about that because when I did my genealogy and was reading the history on the quarrels and how they got the crest and all that, the Pocahontas name came up in the in my research. And yes, our family moved to Delaware. In Newark and all the areas you will find quarrelses, but they're from Jamestown,
Hold on, give me a
Richmond,
second because
and
somebody say
Virginia.
I'm not showing no sources. So let me go get a book real quick and I'll be right back, y'all. Hold on.
And they're from Virginia as well. But I think I remember talking to Dulcie about this before. But yeah, we all moved. The Quarles family moved to Delaware, and the branches. If you look on Google, you'll see the branches of I think her name was Amoletta or something like. She had a different name, but
Something with an A, yeah, where they're saying the real one is. I think it's just a sensitive story because some people don't take it as true, but I think this is a good thing, y'all. Lay off OTK if y'all don't believe it. It's okay. I don't believe in the Pocahontas story either.
Well, that was a nickname.
Go.
Dulcie, that was a nickname. Pocahontas is a
It's
nickname.
a real name, but we're talking about the story and the people. If the people really existed associated with it, and
Well,
it's
I'm in my family, in my research, in my family from the Quarleses from King William County, from Richmond and Jamestown. The name Pocahontas came up. That's what I'm saying in the research.
Yeah, Pocahontas was a popular name at a time. Pocahontas has come up in my genealogy.
I'm not saying I know. I'm just making a statement. And I was saying that what he was saying was correct because we moved to Delaware, even though we have the Roans, the Butlers, the Braxton, all the different branches off the family name, the name Pocahontas came up. Now, I said that to OTK yesterday. I think that was a nickname for people. It had a meaning to it. Play, like he just said, playful one who plays or whatever. But I'm just saying that from my stories, the Pocahontas did marry somebody. Now, I can't remember his name being John Smith, though, but listening to what he's saying, it is true about the Virginia people moving to Delaware because we did it. The Quarleses moved to Delaware, and we were a part of the whole King William County, the king, the queen, the prince, and all of that. The making of that, we were a part of it. When we moved to Delaware.
I wasn't saying people to take that part and say that none of it's true or anything like that. I'm just saying because some people don't take that literal. Pocahontas being the daughter of Chief Powhatan and her marrying John Stith, and then Rolfe after that, and having a child and all that. A lot of people feel like that's a fictional story, and we can still listen to the story and not have to like go back and forth as far as if it's real or not. A lot of people in the chat are saying that's not a real story.
We really buy books.
Her story became a myth. She was a real person.
This is
you
the
can
dictionary.
Force people to think it's a real story. You can't force it. We don't have to go there.
Was it John Smith really John Ross?
This is the
Hold on, y'all.
We read this. Y'all see this picture everywhere. I got the actual book, and this is real leather. We really do this. We got the nations, nation and nations with all the treaties in it. And you notice what it said: American Indian nations in the United States treaties. We got that. We got the anthology of the American peoples. You know what I'm saying? We really do this research, man. We got the Encyclopedia of the American Indian Wars. All right. So in this book right here, in the concise dictionary, the concise Encyclopedia of the American Indian, I'm gonna read y'all real quick what it says about the first Pocahontas story, what I brought y'all into about Kofacheki. And it's right here, so people don't think I'm lying. They can see it. You see the highlights? Y'all see it. It said the Lady of Kofa Cheki. Can y'all see it? I'm sorry. My bad. Let me put it this way. Okay. My bad. Right there. The Lady of Kofa Cheki. All right. So this is one of the chieftains that I told you that the Soto saw. Kofa Cheki and Tuscaloosa. So check the story out. The Lady of Kofa Cheki, a gracious and friendly Indian woman, the niece of chiefness of Kofa Cheki. So now it's showing you dual rulership of this chieftain. It's a chief Kofa Cheki, wartime, and then you got a chiefness who handles the tribal affairs. So this is the niece, all right? A town of Muskogee Indians on the Savannah River is what now is today Georgia. When the Zoto visited the place in 1540, he was welcomed by the Lady of Kofa Cheki on behalf of her aunt. She presented him with a valuable string of pearls. The friendship was ill-returned by the Soto, who carried her away as hostage to protect his party from attack of the Indians under her influence. After 2 weeks of captivity, the lady managed to escape in the mountainous regions of northeast Georgia, which will be the Appalachians, and leaving carried away a box of pearls the Soto had seized. Much of the Spanish charging, see woman, or either you will see, it says in the book, see Pocahontas. All right, so now this will be one of your first women who's getting captured. So now, later on down the line, 1600s, we see the story about Pocahontas, but she actually interferes with John Smith's death. So now Soto done show all these boys how to live, how to survive and all that. This is where your first Thanksgiving comes in and all that right there. When they did the first Thanksgiving, it was 91 Indians, 91 braves that came there to 51 pilgrims, Puritans, Protestants, trying to separate themselves from the Church of England, from the Church of Europe, from the Church of Russia. They was trying to separate themselves. These are some of the ones who become the so-called founding fathers. Remember, I told y'all, when these so-called founding fathers came over here, their whole thing is once they found that America had everything that they needed and they was good, they separated themselves. This is how you have them breaking away. This is when you see the United States or the 13 United Colonies, matter of fact, the 11, because Georgia and North Carolina wasn't even involved yet. It was Carolina, Florida, Virginia, on up at this time. So Pocahontas Squanto ended up getting captured. Once John Smith brought him back, he had a dude with him named Thomas Hunt in another ship. So Thomas Hunt, we know who the Hunts are, the owners of the Kansas City Chiefs, y'all. The Hunt family. All right. So Thomas Hunt, he said, F that. He decided to kidnap some American Indian off the land. He actually captured Squanto too. Took Squanto back over there and sold him into slavery. The ones that sold, they got sold. The ones that didn't get sold, some monks bought them. And the monks got hold of them, right? And the monks say, yo, we're going to teach y'all more. This is when more conversion, more converting. The monks bought them. Squanto say, yo, man, I'm familiar more with Europe than over here. So he ended up getting back to Europe. Check your girl Pocahontas out. So when Thomas Smith came back, a dude named John Rolfe, R-O-L-F-E. He comes back, lost his wife and family in the voyage. Pocahontas is of age now. She marries him. This is your first Indian convert to Christianity. Was Pocahontas. They had kids too. That's still descendants of them in Virginia today. Pocahontas, in her latter years, went to Europe. On her way back, she got sick. So they turned around. She died in Europe. She has an Indian statue, tombstone, today, right now in Europe. Once she got baptized and Christianized, her name changed to Rebecca. Do your research on Pocahontas being changed to Rebecca once she went to England or once she converted. So Pocahontas was a real story.
A lot of stories.
That's Chief Powhatan's daughter. So her sons, them, are actually now mixed with this European bloodline. No, Thomas Smith was an Anglo now. He wasn't a Pilgrim. He was an Anglo. Thomas Hunt, them boys was Anglo. That's why they are believing that kidnapping slaves. The Pilgrims wasn't with that shit. They ended up having wars with them motherfuckers too. Ended up helping the Indians against them. They had problems with each other, just like in Europe. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so now you have a mulatto that ties the bloodline that you know what I mean, that's over here in Virginia. And her sons, her kids then will be descendants of that Powhatan throne or that Powhatan chieftain. Because she is the daughter of Chief Powhatan, which the Powhatan chieftain is named after, Powhatan.
Peace, brother. You just came up. You had a question for Brother OTK?
Yeah, I was asking about Lord de la War. I didn't hear his name mentioned. Hey, dude. Dosia.
Did you hear the question, OTK? What happened to him?
I had asked about De La War. Lord, they call him Lord De La War.
Do anybody know anything concerning Lord De La War? OTK? Dulcie?
That would have to be Spanish. De la War mean, you know what I mean? De la War means the war. You know what I mean? Him of the war or the war or something like that. So that would have to be Spanish. So what area are you talking about?
In the 1602 landing in Jamestown, they say when, I mean, I'm reading from the British.
Oh, you're talking about that Spanish colony. Oh, you're talking about that Spanish colony. Remember, I told y'all it was a Spanish colony that tried to exist up the coast. But that shit got shut down.
I'm not talking about a Spanish colony. I said in 1602.
He's talking about Delaware. Are you referencing Delaware?
Yeah, Lord Delaware.
Yeah, there you go. That's what he's talking about. Go ahead, Wale. You got it.
Okay, De La War came in because the people were starving. They had the starving time there. Once they experienced the starving time, they call it, in 1607. This according to their official government records. I don't read much else. Anyway, they say after the starving time, they got together whoever was left because they had pissed the Indians off with their behavior and stuff. And the Indians wasn't going to help them no more. So they went through the starving time. Because when they first got there, the Indians were very hospitable and helped them out. But their behavior was piss poor. And the Indians cut them off, told them to stay in the fort and don't come out. So anyway, they had decided they better leave or they'll starve that next year. And they were taking off and they had reached, you know, the ocean water, and they ran into De La War, who was coming from Europe, from England, and he was a savant, as far as I understand, killer. He was very good at killing things, anything at all. Didn't matter to him. He loved killing. And he had brought a force with him over to Jamestown. And I think it was, they listed as 1612 when he arrived, somewhere around there. And that's why I asked you about De La Warr. And I thought maybe you would mention it because you had mentioned the 1600s, this and that and stuff. That's all, man. One love.
Yeah, because it's a bunch of barons with that name.
De La Warr came in according to the British.
You know what I mean? You talking about a governor? He was the first governor of the Virginia. Was he? You talk about the first governor of Virginia colony?
I don't think De La Warr ever became a governor. That wasn't his thing. He was thrifty at killing. He wasn't no government, this and that. He wasn't no politics. No, he was just thrifty at killing. And that's what he went there for. Because, like I say, the people were abandoning Jamestown and calling it a loss. And the people who had sent them over had...
First, De La Warr, who I know about, dog, is I'm talking about like that's why I asked you, are you talking about the first governor like of Virginia, dog? Because that's the only fucking De La Warr I know. You know what I mean? Thomas West. That's the only one I know, bro.
Okay, Thomas West. Thank you. You're right, Thomas West.
You putting something on me.
Huh?
Right, well, he was a governor, bro. He was a governor.
Yeah, I'm saying he came under the governorship.
See, you trying to confuse me, and people out there in the chat like, man, I don't even know what you talking about. He wasn't prominent enough for me to admit the reason why I didn't, because I wasn't going deep into stories as far as that. I was just trying to do an overall outline. You feel me? But go ahead, bro. Yeah, I didn't want to go too deep into stories because we can just talk about just him by himself, and that can take up a whole show. We can just talk about John Smith by himself, and it can take up a whole show. So that's why I was just trying to do a general overall search. Yeah. So, damn, dog, you kind of fucked me up like that, dog. You had me thinking about, damn, was this motherfucker I don't know? And you was like, he's a killer. So I was like, all right, go ahead.
It's all this is all their narratives that I have read and you have read, and we commit some of it to memory. And then we are at this point.
They try to say the name Delaware comes from. That's where they try to say the name Delaware comes from. Yeah. From Delaware.
Yeah, of course.
They try to say the name Delaware comes from him. I don't believe that.
Okay.
And you and all of those, he said a mic drop right there. And these are all their narratives that we have put to memory. That is a fact.
Correct. I believe it. Delaware came from him. I believe the Deeps are definitely a name. It might not been pronounced the way that we pronounce it, or put together like the way we put it together. Because when you look at American Indian writing, you see that we like to use a bunch of hyphens because we use diphthongs and we use vowels, so we will stretch words out. That's why you will see a double A, a double E, a double O. You know what I mean? You see double letters behind each other because that's how we speak. But it's still American English. It's written in American English all day, every day, and twice on Sunday.
Well, there's all kind of English. You know,
hey, Wale, man, you need to come on my channel and let's build on Delaware. We can definitely build on him. You know what I mean? Because we got to think about it now. Like I said, these people right here are some of the people who established some of the first colonies. And so these people will be considered your Anglos. Any Anglo, pretty much, that you talk about, bro, is a wartime motherfucker. The Pilgrims is supposed to be the good side of them. Correct? The Puritans, the Protestants, they're like the good side.
That's their propaganda.
You understand what I'm saying? That's what been going on over there from their history that wasn't written for us. They was doing that over there before they even came over here. Their names just changed up, but we got them.
Oh yeah, they were doing
Follow
their
the paper
thing.
trail.
No
Yeah, to each other, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, OTK, we have somebody else that's up. OTK, we have somebody else that just joined us. Hello, welcome. Sorry about the back chat, y'all.
Peace.
You got it. Welcome. Ask your question, please. Oh my God.
We're talking to you, the one that's smoking the cigarette. I was gonna ask you too. Are you okay? You smoking the cigarette kind of hard. I thought it was a blunt at first. You good?
What's his name, brother? Did you hear me? Okay, you getting ready to drop down? Are you here to ask? Okay, have a nice day. Ain't nobody got time.
He all profiling.
And not even. Oh, let me not.
Okay.
Pause. Sorry about that. Tree Blood, you're more than welcome to come back up, but have your question ready, okay? If you want to come back up. All right. Gotta be quick. Here we go, y'all. Cause Tree Blood, you got it. Welcome, and you can ask OTK your question.
I got a question when y'all done.
No, you can ask it now.
We're done. Please give us your question.
Yes, please.
Can you share my screen real quick?
Can you ask let him ask your question? I'm OTK.
Just go to Dosey. So
OTK.
Okay, I just want to prove this Pocahontas thing.
No. Yeah, don't.
We know it's online, OTK. We definitely know that. And we know the people that say those stories, you know. It's just not accepted by everybody as a true story.
Tree Blood, you got it. We're waiting on your question. You know what? All right.
Sir, you have a question?
All right, bye. Nice. Good night. Don't got time. And he. Okay. Goodbye. I can't.
Okay. Listen.
All right. Have a nice. Just go. OTK, you have it.
I'm gonna leave it alone, man. Go ahead. I'll leave that alone, man. So ain't nobody but it is what it is. Go ahead. Sister Nisha.
No, I wasn't saying anything. Go ahead, OTK.
No. I mean, I was just finishing up that story. So yeah, and the reason why Sister Freedom, I went into that story because Sister Freedom has blood ties to this story. And her family told her a story. She actually got records of this. So when she said the other day, she was like, damn, I know you ain't lying. It got to be somewhat truth in this. And I said, yeah, we just got to go and find out all that's true in it. So all we can do is just bring narrative.
It was amazing to hear you tell the story. You know what I mean? It just made me feel good, and you know, about my family line. You know what I'm saying? Because I read it myself within checking the history of the Quarles family. Now, it's weird that some people. We hear so much fabrication that every story we think has to be a lie, but every story isn't a lie, especially when you got relatives, the blood ties to stories. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? I know you're telling the truth. And it's funny because yeah, my family ended up in Delaware. Just like what you said, I'm in Delaware right now, and I'm definitely a Quarles.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Fine,
Hey, how are you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, you loud and clear. Yup, you loud
Can
and
you
clear,
hear us?
bro.
I just wanted to know, do you think that the Civil War was really
Am I hear the end of it,
you know,
bro? I didn't hear the
I
end.
was just waiting. Yeah, I'm cool. I was
Yeah, I
just
didn't hear
trying
the
to
end of
see
your
if
question. Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yup.
if you
Yup.
want,
Go ahead. Loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
no, we can't hear you. I don't know what that's all about.
What is going
Who
on?
Yeah,
asked
I
the
think
question?
he has to go
I
out
didn't
and
hear
come
who
back
asked
in.
the
I don't think he hears us, but we can hear him.
Yeah, yeah.
I
He might
mean,
have
I
a
think
delay.
he's just smoking too much weed. I don't know what's going on, but I
He
do
might have
know.
a delay,
That was a
sis.
Not
He
weed,
might
cigarette.
have a
sis.
That wasn't weed. That was a cigarette.
Yeah,
Nah,
I
that's not
think
everything
so.
we
Can
gonna.
you,
I was making a joke,
delay.
y'all. Okay,
okay,
is
was
your
the Civil War actually a sigil war?
Say that again now. Was the Civil War actually a what?
oh, baby? You gotta go out and come back in again, cause we not
He
getting
might
it
just
all.
have
Is that Ali Bambu? Oh, hi, Ali Bambu. How are you?
Mic check, mic check.
Yes, can you hear us?
Good evening, ladies. Hi, it's Sister Freedom.
How you
Alabama.
doing?
Where's my adopted daughter? She hiding out?
Ali man, I'm not hiding. How you doing? Peace and love.
Oh, they broke you out of jail. They broke you out of jail. We need to get on
Yeah,
that.
you put me out of purgatory for a second.
Okay, we need to get back on
Hey,
that
Alabama.
birthright
Hey,
citizenship.
Alabama.
OTK, wild Indian
My
nigga into his
dog.
house.
Short bus shawty. This our driver, y'all, in the short bus.
Nisha, she kneecapped me. She
Yes,
pulled a
sir.
white woman out of the back of the archives. What's happened, Dulcie? Dots?
We here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody in class?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to
Mama
get in the
Chief
back of the
Howard,
room.
definitely
I'm going to get in the
connection.
back of the room there. Mama Chief, too?
Hey, Alabama.
Yes,
You
sir.
remember when I first asked, I was like, yo, Alabama, how can I get in contact with you? You was like, yo, you got to go through such and such because this is the only way you can get in contact with me. Well, the only way you can get in contact with these sisters is through by me. No, I'm just
Yes,
yeah,
indeed,
sisters
sir.
for life, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So are we still
But
dealing with Memorial Day? Because tomorrow is the most crucial day of the lie. Y'all know why?
Didn't we pass that? Look, that's how much I
No,
don't pay no attention to
no.
holidays.
Can anyone quickly research whether Viola Ford Fletcher is still with us or has she joined the ancestors? Because May 31st and June 1st, it's time for us to stop lying. You do know that's Greenwood, Archer, and Pine, right? Who dropped a bomb on me? Baby? Y'all keep forget. The mother is the first teacher. I'm gonna stay on y'all about this now. Viola Ford Fletcher. When y'all gonna?
What's to do? Look her name up. Look her up, Dot.
She's still with us. Her birthday was just passed, actually, May the 10th. So she's 111 years old.
11 years old. Yes, I just sent that to Senna today. I just sent that to Senna today.
She with us. She looks really good too.
Well, then when are y'all gonna invite your elder to the table and let us Answer the question, who can show up in the silent era with a film crew for 48 hours? I'll wait.
You know what? That's a very good idea to ask the elderly to come on, because they got the stories for you. And ain't none of them gonna say nothing about no African. Unless they had a relationship with a African or something. That's a good idea.
I'm still waiting for someone to answer that question. This is film evidence of a massacre, and we keep being told something else is a hell of a cost. I'm confused.
I did last year, this year, I think it was this year. I did bring my aunt on to one of these panels, via the telephone, and she had just turned 100. Oh, she had just turned 105 years old. So I spoke to her yesterday, and I didn't speak about this kind of thing, but when she came on before, she told people the same thing she tells me, which is she never heard of the slavery thing till she went to school, and she's 105 as of last month. She's in the book. She's in one of the books about people over 100. Forget which book. But just talking to her, that's what she had to say. I just thought I'd mention it since the guy brought up this other person, with that type of idealism. And if if something cooked like that, I'll bring her on and let the Dosey them talk with her, because before I was on Q-Butter's thing, and his thing is basically male dominated. So I know Dosey is pretty good people, as far as I know, anyway.
All right, y'all. But if that brother, Tree Build, no, we couldn't hear you. Your mic kept going out. You could come back in, bro. I definitely try to answer your question as best as it is, man, best as I can. But no, and nobody was hating on you. That's one thing my sisters don't do over here. In that case, I wouldn't still be here, because I would have been one of the first that they would have hated with my rhetoric, my American Indian shit. I used to come over here talking about. I didn't get my sister Nisha till she tell me her people's then was buried in a big ass cemetery. I said, well, shit, you show them peoples is your slave owner, or you show them peoples ain't your family members? Because at a certain time of the census, man, daddy would be head of the household. Even if his mama is in that house, his mama would be considered a slave. And now in today's on income tax, it's called dependent.
Now, you going from head of household to slave master? So, Sharice,
that's what they call them. That's what they call them. A slave master can also be head of household. So now
who is they? Who is they? Who is that?
What you mean when I say they?
The criminals?
I'm talking about us.
The criminal.
The us. No, okay. I ain't talking about no cracker now.
They and us is two different groups of people.
My bad. I'm not talking about no. I'm talking about us. Us. Okay. That's why I said when you see daddy was the head of the
they
household.
Not like us, in other words. They not like us, right?
Right.
Okay. So, Sharice, excuse me, OTK. Sorry. Didn't want to step on your wisdom. Sharice, can you forward that to Sister Freedom or to
Dots? Where is Dots?
Whoever can use it, because we have an Albert Perry fact.
All right, y'all want to go ahead and close this out, man, and then y'all want to get into another bill or whatever like that? Because
hold up, OTK. Hold up, OTK.
No, you hold up, Alabama. Hold up, Alabama. Hold up. In case you didn't see the title, this OTK in American Indian Slavery. I understand where you taking us in the Black History Month and all of this, and I love my peoples them. But before we get into that, I just want to close it out with my sisters them first, and then I can go ahead and move on, and then y'all can keep building.
OTK. Yeah. I'm going to add to your story that you just brought back to the forefront, which is this. You were talking about the Powhatans, and I know somewhere along the line they did a war thing, and I forget his name. I call him Metacome. You know of Metacome, right?
Okay. So Metacome was the was a son. Metacome is actually the son of the Delawares. Metacome was a Delaware, and he's the son of Somerset, if I'm not mistaken. Somerset had the treaty with the Pilgrims. So what happened is, after Somerset went on, and the first Pilgrim that made the treaty with the Delaware Braves, his son and Metacom, which Metacom became King Philip, because what he said is, I'm not talking to none of you peasants. The only one, this is an American Indian talking to them now. Say, I'm not talking to none of you peasants. I will only speak with a king. Take me to your king. So that's how he inherited the name King Philip.
King Philip. That's right, King Philip.
But that's Metacom. Yeah, come on, man. I do this, man.
I call it Metacom. Go ahead. I call it Metacome. But anyway,
Metacome is his real name.
Yeah,
that's his real name. King Philip.
That's his real name.
Was his adopted name that they gave him. Like I told you, how he inherited that name King, because he went up to their ass, and this is how the war started. This is what broke the treaty. This is what started the King Philip's War. And this is where they showed earlier, the sisters then were showing, Philip said, I'd rather die than become a slave. Amen. And then he even surrendered. He even surrendered and said, yo, damn, too much of my people done gone. He surrendered because he said, if I surrender, I can stop my people from getting put in slavery and getting taken other places. But you know what they did? They still shipped this fucking peoples to Barbados shit.
I found one. It wasn't just Barbados. They call it the anyway.
The Caribbeans, bro. The triangle slave trade. Yes, the triangle American Indian slave trade, bro. This is what I teach. That's just one story of the many.
Well, I was just mentioning that one of Metacome's offspring, what they call progeny, I have found them in the Caribbean. His progeny actually are aware of their lineage, and I found at least one of them that I've spoken with here in the Caribbean. I just thought I'd mention that to you, that it's nothing, a lot of stuff is not truly lost. It's just not as readily available as it will become.
OTK.
Like Dosia turned me on to the fact that it was where I could find the information that it was a lot of American Indians shipped even to Africa as captured in war and captured by raids for slavery. I think she went up to about 10,000. I forget the numbers. I don't do well with numbers like that.
Yeah, and I still haven't gotten it. Was told in reverse. I have to get that book. But yes, and go into those details and sources, because we know they're taking to Europe, and then Europe it's a straight shot to come down to Africa. And like, I need to learn more about the Saint Thome.
And that's why. Yeah, go ahead, sis. Damn. And my fault, y'all. I wanted to correct myself. Remember, I told y'all I kept thinking, like, hold up, was it Delaware? No, the Wampanoags. That's who King Philip was, the Wampanoags.
Right.
Yeah, the Wampanoags.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to tell you, but
hold on, was he a Delaware? And I kept thinking, like, damn. But you know what? When you study so much this history, man, sometimes it get, and then questions get asked, dates and all this shit, because a lot's going on at the same time during the same dates. A lot of shit is going on, and you wonder, well, how is all this shit going on? Because at the same time shit is going on over here, in world history, shit is going on over there. So, you know what I mean? Being a studier like how I do, and I just love to study. So I had to correct myself, but I kept saying earlier, like, hold on, was he Delaware? But no, it's Wampanoag. Wampanoag. You know what I'm saying?
I think Elsie said it was told in reverse. That is such a true statement. We don't know what to believe because if they think we stupid enough to just listen to the enemy anymore, and this is the age of information, no.
The thing that I'm aware of, like I do, and I want to work with you, OTK, on from this angle though. All of this is their narrative written down. This is not our story. This is their,
and we compare it. We compare it to our story.
Thank you. Now that's where we go.
Doing that.
We compare it to our story, bro.
We telling the person who actually lived it, they lying, and that's not cool. That's not cool at all.
And another thing,
question you wanted to ask OTK, because we only got like 10 minutes left.
OTK.
Yeah, so I can let y'all go ahead and build because Alabama ready. Alabama about to take us on a whole nother bill, and it's gonna.
No, he said he got a question to ask you. OTK, give him a chance, honey.
That's my brother. That's my elder, baby. Wow, that's my elder.
He's not gonna run out the back door. Again, whether you all do reach out to Viola Ford Fletcher or not.
Got her number?
What I just sent to Sharice is supposedly the oldest female mitochondrial aspects of DNA, going alongside my good brother Albert Perry, South Kakalaki. Okay, so my question, OTK, how is slavery attached to the womb of the Aboriginal mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother? Could you straighten this old nigga out, please, sir?
The slavery tied to the womb.
How are we or anyone born a slave?
That comes from their narrative of you are what your mother are over here, because we deal with a matriarchal society, and these was acts and laws and rules that was put into place. But to be like how Alabama said it is, and I feel where my elder coming from. You can never be born a slave. In no ways, no conditions, or no how. Indentured servant, they try to code it with indentured servant, or they try to make it bad with slavery. And times you see that when they're dealing with the white Europeans, they using indentured servitude, but the black right along beside it considered a slave. American Indian can never be born a slave, but that was something that was put upon us. We are the people of this land. Only a person that can be a slave on his own on this land is an immigrant, a foreigner. That's it. That's why we tell you do your genealogy. Your genealogy will bring you back to this land rather than taking you away from this land.
Nah, I'm not, my good brother. I'm not gonna beat you up with post-millennial, but again, is it too simplistic to say? Is it too simplistic to say that patriarchy is enslaving matriarchy to create what? Perpetual servitude?
Perpetual servitude. Facts. Due by the woman. So by that reasoning right there, perpetual servitude due by the woman, all y'all Africans claim that y'all all come from African because y'all tied together from a mitochondria DNA from a woman. So you're tying yourself back to a born slave too in their aspect, because you are what your mother are. So
also according to the 16th
America, when it come down to America, y'all, it's America first. Everything else is second. I'm not saying I don't got no problem with nobody being African or no other race or that even being in their genealogy pool or in their bloodline. I don't have no problem with that. I don't have nothing wrong with that. You got the right to claim everything that's in your bloodline. You got that right. Just don't tell me who I am, because I wouldn't tell you who you are.
But if you're obsessed with degenerating the American known as the Negro and putting perpetual, forever enslavement, what's wrong with that, brother? Again, correct this.
Yeah, but makes sense out of, I mean,
we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I mean, I'm
this
just
simply an exercise in positive law.
No, because Ali Bamba was saying it, so I just want him to clarify what it is that he's saying. Just break it down where silly old me can understand what you're saying.
Freedom.
I'm just saying, because he.
You want him to go more?
Intelligent. Speak so. I just.
Another.
Hey, y'all make
subscribe.
Y'all make sure y'all go get y'all a copy of this, The American Bloodlines of the Gods of Civilization. He has another book out now, but y'all need to start with this from BCU, man. I keep this in my archives too. I read this too. And anybody else out there who dropping books, I read them too. Word, I support all my peoples now. I love to read. I come from that era where they say, when I hide something from a nigga, you put it in the book.
I see our fans are in the chat. YK is in the chat. So no one said the white man took Indians to Africa. I don't remember anyone saying that. I don't think anyone said that.
They're the ones with white zaddy fetishes, Dulcie. You know that they have a fetish with white zaddy. But OTK.
Oh, because they want to be them and African at the same time, or is that the same thing?
They will never be African. If you were born here, you lived here, all that I don't even.
Is the shackle involved? Is the shackle involved?
Well,
the crazy thing is,
mental shackle.
We're talking to people who claim slavery. We talking people who is claiming slavery. And they're named after the people who is on as the so-called slave master. They have the same last name.
Why is an Ashkenazi black?
But is it not true? Is it not true, OTK, that the people that was on these lands, the copper color people that was on these lands, we married some of the invaders as just like Pocahontas did, because that's how we got the clothes. So it had to be that it was your slave master, it was your husband.
Listen, man, if y'all didn't see the Killers of the Flower Moon, if y'all didn't see that, please watch that and watch it 3 times. These people came and they married in so they get a peace. It was strategic. Same thing they did in the Caribbeans. Those Latinos that I showed, they didn't want to go back to Spain. Why would they go back to Spain if they got kicked out? So when they came over here, they started marrying queens, chiefnesses.
Yeah.
Women who inherit the chiefnesses. Now you got to do business with me once I marry her. Oh, now if I'm
you know what, OTK, I don't know if you got a short bus shorty loose in the chat. For some strange reason, I don't know whether it's because their brain is backed up with patriarchal seed of Abraham shit, whatever. But the question still remains, the seed don't make you a slave. How does the womb make you one? Sisters, that's the point I keep asking. Maybe y'all don't seem to get that. But Go ahead.
Woman first. The woman is who they had to attack because she was a stronger force. So, you know, and still is. No, I'm not, and that's not a put down to our men. But we really, you know, you just give us a house, we're gonna make it home. That's the way I'm saying that.
I think you're missing. I think you're missing.
That's why I said maybe you need to explain.
Okay, I'm gonna give you another example, not to get you flagged, but the Zionists, the small hats. Why is their woman determining who is that person? Do you feel me, OTK? Do the side by side comparison, if you would, please, sir. Because it don't make them a slave; it makes them chosen. Correct?
What I'll say is, Alabama, I know it's going to be in enemy territory, but please, June 1st, just come to the House of Consciousness, because some of this stuff is going to be addressed. I promise. I know what you're talking about, and just come and watch me and Dot's work.
Yeah, they
do that heavy lifting.
Watch
girl.
us
Do that
work.
heavy
Hey,
lifting.
Dulcie, let them know. Let them know.
Do that heavy lifting. It's called advertising.
Oh yeah, okay.
Exactly. So it's lies. My teacher told me myths of the slave trade. And it's going down.
Okay, so we need all y'all in a building. We need our family heavy in the building. Okay, it's gonna be a good conversation for sure.
Especially when it gets at the end, he says, "Anybody got any questions?"
Y'all came a long way.
And listen to this though.
Y'all came such a long way. Hey, listen, hey, Josie, we gotta start showing some of those old shows where we used to go at it. Me and y'all.
Right, they're all
we used to go
gone.
at it,
They're all gone. I would show some of those clips, but we
And
don't have them.
even if they know the answer to some of the questions, ask some of the questions so the information can get out there. And that's what I do most of the time. I know the answers. I just want it answered so it'll get in the minds of the people to start thinking. This is very important. You know, I still am asking about the Trail of Tears. I don't know if it got completely answered the way I kind of was hoping that OTK was going to go into, because I know we don't got time to go all into it tonight. You know, what really is the Trail of Tears, why it happened, how it happened, when it happened.
Relocation.
But even if you talk about the Trail of Tears.
Yeah, because that's
hold on.
One at a time, yeah.
Indian Removal Act, Indian Removal, baby. Indian Relocation Act, Indian Reallotment Act.
Urban renewal, gentrification, redlining, it's all the same.
All that.
But we wanna focus on the slave trade, because there's a lot of misinformation around the slave trade, and we don't want to go outside of it. We know people are gonna come in and want to be like, oh, talk about Indian this, Indian that. No, we want to talk about this slave trade that all of y'all are acting like y'all are experts on.
Right.
But we don't hear a lot of these other facts of the slave trade, and all we hear are the myths of the slave trade. So we want to break down the slave trade history and slave trade history only.
And plus, Chelsea, they think it was only one slave trade. Like only
How about the
They don't want
Trans-Pacific
to talk about all the groups of people that came over here.
or the Trans-Pacific slave trade that's 2 or 3 centuries older than the transatlantic slave trade?
Yep, and I know you were talking about them Circassian slaves, Alabama. Them Circassian slaves no one wants to talk about. We're going to talk about those with the Ottoman Empire. Those are definitely going to be addressed.
Not the actual white slavery.
Right. Well, listen, Dulcie, the question that I really want you to answer as far as myth is concerned. Oh, okay. Good gracious.
Oh, Dulcie. Before the Ottoman slave trade, you have the Persian, the Hittite, the Babylonian slave trade out of Africa. This is where Alexander so-called saved the people of Egypt at. He ran them out of Egypt because they was enslaving their ass. This is before the Ottomans.
These are your Persians, your Hittites, your Babylonians, all of them. Before the, way before the fucking Ottoman
soil. They doing it to each other. It's terrible.
Word. So the Ottoman slave trade was more of a holy and religious part of it. But the Babylonian, Hittite, and all that shit there, it was no religion. They all prayed to many gods at this time, and different gods. It wasn't no one secular god at this time.
Cameron, when you going to bed?
It was literally a territorial war.
God, we can hear you, baby.
Oh, sorry, y'all. My bad.
And this is where your boy Ptolemy comes out of. Ptolemy comes out of that era. He's one of Alexander's generals who took over Egypt.
Exactly. So what were you gonna say about what was your thing of the slave trade, Sister Freedom?
Girl, you know I don't forgot. That's why I be trying to get it out. Where was we at, Dosey? Because then I could probably remember.
Oh, I did want to say something in regards to what Dosey was saying for our conversation on HOK on Sunday. You know, yeah, people are definitely gonna have questions, but you know, our focus for sure, because it's not trying to convince anybody, right? I think nowadays in 2025 it's the age of information, and people are aware of what's out there for the most part. But ultimately, if you know, sometimes you can get stuck in your ideology, even if it's not true or outdated. You could, you know how they say you could take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's the same thing that applies. You could have, you know, it could be right in your face. You know what I'm saying? But if that's not their paradigm, or if that's not, you know, what they believe in, it is what it is. So we are not going to waste our time trying to convince anybody. And most of what we're talking about in terms of like the myths and the narratives, we all have heard of them and we sort of already know. But this conversation definitely is going to be good and it's valuable, right? Because it has impacted how we see ourselves here in America. And so I just wanted to throw that in real quick. So I enjoyed this conversation tonight, OTK.
But see, Docs, again, the only reason why I keep bringing this point up because I get tired of people conflating and mixing the dope, okay? Regardless of, you could go throughout the entire recorded history of people, whether you call them human beings, monsters, live persons, interacting with other people and putting them in constriction, whether you call it slavery, indentured servitude, apprenticeship, etc. The difference that we're being convinced by lies and propaganda is there is such a thing as American chattel slavery through birth. And every person born to a slave is a slave from birth to death. And every generation from the womb of the American Aboriginal, known as a negress, is giving birth to slave. Now, when you can, I sent to Sharice this 117-year-old sister that would stand side by side with Albert Perry as the most ancient DNA. So when did slavery start in her womb with his Y chromosome? Are you feeling me now, Dots?
Right. We understand. That's why I was saying that tune in, because we're gonna address some of those myths. We're gonna address some of those things.
He said nothing about being nobody's slave. My uncle too. No.
We're gonna address some of those chattel slavery claims. We're gonna address were the worst slavery that ever existed placed upon the Africans. Those are some myths we want to address.
So is their claim is that every person that looked like us were our ancestors were slaves? Is that the claim?
I knew Niche was going to say.
It's damn near. I mean, I don't think they're dumb enough to say 100%.
That's what
they know. But I'm saying that they be close. They be like it's 99.999, and they don't say 100% just on some. Oh, it's pseudo to say 100%. But they basically say, we're all the descendants of African slaves. That's
and
the
that
narrative.
is not true. It's just no way it can be true. How many? Even the Caucasian man that was on the channel, it was you, it was Chief.
Don't spill the tea, Frida. Don't spill the tea.
Yeah, there's a new clip of that. I wanted to play that. We have
less than 1%, Dulcie.
I'm gonna show
less than 1%. Less than 1%.
Okay.
Of the United States of America slave population was African, and that's of the 4 million freed slaves at the time. Less than 1% were African, according to David Eltis.
I don't know about that one.
Well, David Eltis is the authority on the slave trade. I mean, I know a lot of people have been arguing that, and like, who is David Eltis to us? He's where you get 12.5 million Africans come to the Americas. Without him, you do not have that statement of 12.5 million Africans came as slaves to the Americas. He is the foremost authority for that figure, and no one can get around that. If you don't agree with him, now y'all got to come up with some new numbers because he's the one that came up with those numbers.
Oh, great.
What you really can't be sure about because he wasn't there, but.
Well, okay, let me share this because I was going to say it's a new clip or anything. And since y'all mentioned the interview, we have a new clip of the interview. We still don't have a date as far as how the interview is going to come out in entirety because it is like 2 hours and 40 minutes. But y'all keep liking these clips, share them out and everything like that. There's some great clips.
Yeah. Excuse me, though.
Okay, I got it sharing in the back.
I'm trying to figure out where all those people was in Georgia. Because I'd have been tearing Georgia apart like OTK tell South Carolina and
Get on it, Nishi. Get on it.
Wait
because
till
again, I'm waiting to see where that slave woman is.
Y'all
still got the other thing up.
I'm going to have you talk to Sword in the background because Sword had when his name is Sword. So he had his sword ready and he got Georgia on lock, and you'll be surprised of who some of those people are that were enslaved or in servitude in Georgia.
But it wasn't the whole lot. Because at that period of time, Georgia was free for a while, back and forth. So it wasn't a lot of people from Georgia was never slaves.
Right, because my family on my dad's side from Quitman, Georgia. Am I saying that right? Quitman. Well, anyway,
that's right.
You got
up. Spoiler alert! I was talking about indentured servants.
Oh, that's my clip. I was just waiting for Dulcie.
The number of sub-Saharan Africans who willingly migrated to the United States in the decade between 1990 and 2000 was larger than the total number of Africans shipped directly to the United States over the course of the entire transatlantic slave trade.
I know that's right.
Ding, 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 ding. And he took that straight out of the white man's mouth.
Damn. Ali Bambu, did you go to school with any Africans? I just want them.
In the time period that he just mentioned, I went to college with one.
Okay, that's
elementary school. Now you northern Negroes got this mixed up.
When they was willing, when they could come over here, on their own or what have you. If they did their visa.
Did you notice how strong he stressed willingly?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that anyone who is American known as a Negro is unwillingly here or exists.
That's not what
I'm
he's
still
saying.
waiting for y'all to identify that slave womb.
He's not saying that. That was not the reason why he said that. He's making a point. The point that he's saying is it's more Africans that came over willingly when they were allowed to, come over, just like Jamaicans and anybody else that came over, than it was during the
My
slave
dear,
trade.
it proves the point that the white man said that less than 1%, and actually, Dulcie, because we've already walked this down, he said 1/10 of 1%. Out of 40 million, 1% is 40,000. 10% of that is $4,000. In 400 years? Please. Y'all got it.
No,
share the screen in the background, and Sharice, you'll like this too because you asked a question about this. So I guess he had to tell us. He had to tell us because of your question.
Dulcie, I'm trying to get you up there and it ain't doing it for me. Did it? Okay, is that it?
Yeah, I just did it.
Okay.
Triangular traffic came into vogue, and what we think now is that triangular traffic was not the key. The typical voyage actually was out and back from the Americas to Africa. So
but that would come later. That would be 19th century, right?
Well, let's put it this way. There's two ways in which Africans got into the Americas.
Another one, but we want to address this because you just did it. We just saw an interview that you did with the BCU Big Cat University, and it was legendary Top Cats.
I have a question, Professor. So within that data, and you said that it's subject to change, going through Curtin, he said a lot of people numbers were wrong. So basically, like you spoke about the slave trade census.
Yeah, well, his numbers were wrong too.
He criticized a lot. That's what I was gonna say. And he kind of put it on Brian Elwich, who numbers were also wrong too. I read his works as well, Brian Elwich.
Yeah, his focus was on the Caribbean, obviously, or Jamaica.
Right, Jamaica and the Caribbeans.
Yeah.
But the Caribbeans, what you call the intra-American slave trade, that would be maybe the main focal during the time period of the slave trade. I think you started at 1502, if I'm not sure.
Yeah, about then. Yeah.
Up to
1866, I think was the last. It's the last voyage that we can actually identify. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So through that, because some scholars, I've read some works out there. I don't know if you're familiar with Jeremy Black, but he said that Curtin's number was off, but he said that Professor David also used Curtin's numbers. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. I mean, what we did was, the background of this is that there were estimates in the 1950s and 60s, which were clearly not plausible. Some people were talking of 60 or 100 million crossing the Atlantic.
Right. What was it like back then with everyone putting their numbers out, and how do you assess what's accurate?
What I did was just part of the growing interest, not only in the topic, but in the way that you approach the topic. The beginning of big data really is back in the 1960s. That came along at the same time as the computer revolution.
Mainframes.
Like big IBM machines, and eventually, of course, very relatively cheap laptops. And so what you had was a lot of historians whose primary interest wasn't on numbers, but nevertheless uncovered a lot of information.
Anthropology. We could go ahead and say it. It was more anthropology.
That the records could have. What impressed me most was the way people voluntarily, I'm talking about scholars who are quite often very niggardly about their making their data available. But in this case, we had really little problem. People would write a book on a particular branch of the slave trade, and in the process of that, they didn't cover data which we didn't know about. And the striking thing was that they made that stuff available to us. What we developed in terms of slave voyages couldn't have happened without that kind of approach and attitude. Plus the fact that I eventually got to the point of having graduate students of my own. and they were out speaking languages which I didn't know. So basically, there was a lot of potential there, which we were fortunate to benefit from.
Professor, I have a question. So would that come in the frame of the Special Defense Act of 1957?
I think that's a bit early. I think. I
know they had numbers at 55. I know they had numbers before then.
Yeah.
And once the Special Defense Act and African Studies came out, association, once they began funding, because I think even Curtin, was funded by the African Association.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So
yeah, I mean, Curtin came up with a figure of 9.5 million, which is actually was not right, but at least it was based on the kind of scholarship that had become available in the 60s. So what we did was, as you probably know, in terms of what we've done with slave voyages, we think that probably 12.5 million. And actually, I think we're going to expand that number somewhat. I think the true number is probably somewhere between 12.5 and 13 million. But the point is,
I apologize, Professor. Is that a cutoff at 1807? Because I've heard you say North America.
Yeah, North America was quite different.
Around the Trade Embargo Act, 1807, 1808.
Yeah. The 1807 Act was actually quite effective in cutting off the traffic to North America. It certainly didn't shut it down. We know that there was illegal voyages subsequent to that, but in effect, it ensured that the time of Civil War, when close to 4 million Black Americans were living on the continent, just about all but maybe 50 or 100,000 were not African. They'd been born in the US rather than in Africa. So when you look at the first census of 1870 Black Americans, there are very few Africans involved. That makes the US quite different from anywhere else in the Americas.
Before we shift gears, I wanted to ask one quick question. You mentioned numbers that was produced in I think you said between like the 40s and the 60s was based on the scholarship that was available at that time. Can you kind of share what scholarship was available at that time?
Well, there was nothing in the way of what I would call numerical scholarship. And parts of the Atlantic were completely ignored. Like, we now know that the South Atlantic was far more important than the North Atlantic. The term triangular traffic came into vogue. And what we think now is that the triangular traffic was not the key. The typical voyage actually was out and back from the Americas to Africa. So,
but that would come later. That would be 19th century, right?
Well, let's put it this way. There's two ways in which Africans got into the Americas. One, of course, was via a slave ship direct route, but the other was through this intra-American traffic, which hasn't, up until recently, not received the attention it should. It looks to us now that, in fact, just over 60% of all Africans that came to the Americas ended up in Brazil and Spanish America. And they got there partly, of course, by direct route from Africa, but also far more important was this intra-American traffic. Now, in the US, what that means is the traffic from the Old South to the New South. What had not been realized was that there was a major traffic from British Caribbean islands to Spanish America, and to a lesser extent Brazil. So that, in fact, we've got a traffic which just simply wasn't recognized in the scholarship.
1777, Sierra Leone Company was created. That mission failed, and they moved on. That was by Thornton and the guys. They went on to the African Institution. That would move on. You get the Royal Geographical Society, which emerged with the African Association. So for the numbers, during the most significant time would be during around the 18th century, 17th century. But the exploration of Africa didn't start to June the 9th, 17 or 18.
Okay.
Yeah. So when he was talking about that specific group, what was he? How did you interpret that? For one, but did you see it as him talking about indigenous Americans or individuals who were African that were being born in Africa? So going back to our initial question, our initial prompt that we were talking about, the African Americans, the Native African Americans on the continent at that time through population growth.
Yeah, I mean, in the 1870 census, there's about 1% or less of individuals who are African. So we have 4 million, almost 4 million people enslaved, and they're, for the most part, born in the Americas, or more specifically in the U.S.
We got here. How would you rate the conversation? I know we took a lot of your time first off, but how would you rate the conversation? And we just
I rate it quite highly. I mean, I'm very impressed with the literature that you've been through, and I'm very impressed with you being open to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are not. So I think this is all to the good, and I'd like to thank you for your time.
You know, and some of the people who are not are the same people who claim the white man stole their tongue, stole their God, stole their culture from them.
Yeah.
But this white man, they don't want to listen to. But y'all got it.
Yeah, and you guys go ahead. It's on Legendary Top Cats, and in his videos, like and share that video out. And more videos are to come from that interview. It was long, but yes,
that interview was good, man.
Yeah, y'all did a great job. Major shout out to y'all. I mean, I did a great. Sweet Feather. You of course, Sword. I think Sword was on there, right?
Yes, Sword was on there.
Top. Yeah, I did a wonderful job.
And
Excellent.
Sword addressed some of the things that y'all bring up, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till it comes out. Sword addressed a lot of stuff.
Well, listen, let me say this to them. We're coming back Friday. No, when we come back Sunday. No, Sunday will be over HOK, right? So we won't.
Yeah,
Sunday,
but we might do a little after party. So like after the build on HOK, we were thinking about doing a little after party so we can discuss, the conversation, and you guys can come up and tell us what y'all thought of it, give us your honest feedback, So yeah, but that's this Sunday at 7.
All before y'all go on, right, Dots? We won't be probably coming back on at all because this special week, you know what I mean? Y'all gonna be over there putting unscramble those minds.
Yeah, we're gonna cut it off though. We ain't staying over there all night.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
Once we take a couple questions, we're gonna cut it and then come back over here and go live.
That's not what I'm talking about. I was saying that we're not coming back on, like, how we usually come on Fridays. We won't be on no more until Sunday. But I was asking, did y'all want to come back on to do anything else before Sunday? That's what I was saying. Sorry.
No.
Okay. Just
before you ladies leave, Sharice, could you show that 117-year-old great grandmother?
That was it's a short.
I gotta send that to my email. Hold on.
I gotta let y'all know that we only do a certain amount of time, like 2 hours, and it's been 2 hours. It's been 3 hours actually.
Big Mama ready to shut it down, Alibaba.
Yeah, but we can get 2 more clips in. I think Tyrone wanted to show a clip, so let this be the closeout.
Where's Tyrone at? I don't even see him.
Oh, he keeps saying, "Let me up in the chat." I clipped the link. Tyrone, come on now.
Well,
if you ladies close out with your elder when you circle back, and I've said this to you before the last time I talked with you, someone go find that 4-year-old child that consoled her mother with Philando Castile, which is coming up on July 6th, if I'm not mistaken, and put her commentary from being on the scene, consoling her mother at 4, and this 117-year-old DNA strand. That's what came out of that 4-year-old baby. You feel me, Sharice?
Oh, here it is, right here for sure. Yeah, because I know you remember the build that I had did about Albert Perry and his, his ancient DNA being beyond everything. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a specific timestamp? Because it's 25 minutes. So,
well, you could fast forward to maybe halfway or whatnot, but I think you ladies are really going to want to take time. And again, tell me when the slavery came out of what womb, and how ancient was that womb, by the way?
Hey y'all, peace and love, man. My computer went down, so I had to log back on with my phone. That's what took me so long. I was in the back for a minute, but it seemed like when I was talking, man, I must be had a lag or something with the computer because I seen Wild Savage was like, damn, OTK, be quiet, man, let Dosey talk. So apparently I was talking and thought I was the only one talking. My apologies.
No. You were good. You were good.
But I appreciate y'all, man, for having me. You know what I mean? As always.
What I'm really trying to say, OTK,
Of course.
when they keep mixing the dope, how you take hundreds of thousands of years of Y chromosome and mitochondrial DNA and turn it into a slave. When in this timeline? I'm confused.
Hey, someone's in the back. Tyrone, bring him up.
We can't hear the sound. Sure.
I was talking. I ain't played it yet. Is all.
Field smelled after rain when she was just 7 years old. Doctors from around the country came to Arkansas just to draw her blood. Among them were experts from the Supercentenarian Research Foundation, the Gerontology Research Group, and university labs trying to answer one question. How did she survive? What should have killed her? One of the researchers, who had studied over 80 people past the age of 110, said privately, Gertrude's biological stability was off the charts. She wasn't just old, she was biologically resistant as most of the blacks who endured hard pain during the Salvary and the Jim Crow era. Resistant to what? To stress, to disease, to systemic breakdown. She had endured decades of malnutrition, racial violence, poverty, and trauma, and yet her cells showed no signs of accelerated damage, so they dug deeper. They looked at her telomeres, the caps on the ends of chromosomes that shorten with age. In most people, they shrink rapidly by the time you hit 80, but Gertrude's, they were barely shortened at all. One geneticist told Scientific American, it's as if her cellular clock just slowed down. But here's the chilling part. As tests continued, researchers began to whisper, what if this isn't just Gertrude? What if this is something more? Black DNA, the hidden supercode. The deeper scientists looked, the more uncomfortable they got. Top DNA companies were paid billions to hide the truth about her DNA and that of Albert Perry because it was going to expose the white narrative they had been pushing all along. Because Gertrude wasn't the first time black DNA had rewritten science. There was Henrietta Lacks, a poor black woman from Baltimore whose cells, taken without consent, became the first immortal human cell line in medical history.
I think you can pause it
Her
from
HeLa
here.
cells are still alive today,
Gertrude.
decades after her death.
And sisters, don't forget HeLa cells.
Chronicles of
Henrietta
Black.
Lacks and Viola Ford Fletcher is 111. But y'all got
What's
it.
going on, everybody?
Yeah, that's what's up.
Thank
And
you for letting me on the panel.
is that a no problem, Ling Ling? I just had a question about Chronicles of Blacks. Is that a person? Do they come, or like have you been reaching out to them, Sharice, to try to get them to come on the show?
I have it, but I think I will for sure. I mean, I love all the man.
They have some really good information about DNA, and I'd be interested to talk to people that are like, studying the DNA, but not just going by consensus science,
Absolutely.
Y'all played that David Eltis clip. Yeah, I've witnessed this YK character. He's crashing out lately, trying to take this man's word out of context. Recently, like on TikTok, you had Chief Natural go up against this clown named Teaching on the Move or whatever his name is in a debate, and he lost that debate against like talking about how Paleo Indian Negroes that were already here in the Americas, and David Eltis confirmed what Chief Natural was saying about this clown. And so after they were in a whole live tizzy after Top Cats got a hold of this man that was working with that slavevoyages.com website. And so they was asking this man about insights about the slave voyages and trying to coerce this man into confirming they African biased beliefs, which he shot them down, and they kept trying to get him to try and bully Dane Calloway and Top Cats about their information and pulling up their books and stuff like that. And this man didn't budge. He actually just said, "Oh, and then what?" He wasn't laughing. Them niggas was over here goofing around and laughing and trying to say, "Oh, we're gonna clip this man and take his information out of context," when he literally said that Paleo Indians that arrived here in like 20 to 30,000 years as blacks. Another thing about these goofies, they want to try and deny that, yeah, there were black slave owners in the past during the colonial period and antebellum period. And this clown literally tried to pick the book Larry Kroger's Black Slave Owners from the year 1790 to 1860, I believe. It literally told us that black Indians were had their Indianness questioned in the laws, and these people were proven in court to be Indians, and he kept trying to Africanize these people, claiming that they were self-hating and made up African identity, when we know for a fact that a lot of these Eurocentrics in academia was trying to force this Africa stuff onto us. And they don't have any actual evidence that our culture is African. It's just vague stuff like E. Franklin Frazier was talking about. But these people keep ice skating uphill this slave victimization story uphill when truth is stranger than actual fiction. And I don't know what's going on with this goofy YK in the chat, because he's been running from me, trying to tag me and stuff, and I offered him a platform to come debate me, but all he does is run, and he doesn't even contact me when he wants to go, so he can get his second sequel to his beatdown about DNA and Black American history. But I land my plane at that.
Yeah, peace to you. No problem. Yeah, that's just where they are. I mean, if you look at their numbers are hurting. They don't have a lot of people listening to them. They're trying to get grasp onto anything to get people to listen to them. And if they just do builds about Africa and them being African, they won't get anybody to listen. So that's what they're on right now. They're just trying to get some kind of form of life support to be like, keep our channel going. And the only life support they have is coming at Indians. So.
Mm-hmm. And they willingly want to defend these Mongol-centric natives. They go to these final battle groups or whatever and kiki with these people, and they don't really like these Pan-Africans like that. They treat them like dirt, and many of them will come out and admit that they are coons. Excuse my French on YouTube, but yeah, they literally are Sambos for these people, and they don't have anything going for themselves but to be crabs in a barrel and try to undermine reparations.
So, ladies, if you decide to build around that video, again, my question that's still hanging in the balance: whose womb and how old is the womb that gives birth to slaves? However y'all want to frame that. since I'm not a woman and ain't trying to be transgendered, who else is going to answer that question?
I mean, we would need the numbers for their wombs because our wombs don't give birth to slaves.
You do know the only defined white slavery is the white woman, right? Dawson?
Is the which woman? Sorry.
The YT woman is the
Right.
definition of white slavery. When you take white off of it, why does not slavery attach itself, oh, I'm sorry, to the Slav male?
Mhm. Yeah, why do we got to color code a Slav? That's some goofy shit. And plus, also, doesn't the word black comes from those areas such as Germany, the Black Forest, you got the Black Sea and all that shit. Why do Hoteps and pro-blacks and pan-Africanists want to hold on to this crayon color that is actually a non-color shade? And to answer your womb question, that transatlantic slave trade story doesn't even make sense when they want to use that Palenque sex farm theory, because they don't even have enough documents to prove that a whole bunch of African women were brought over here like that, and it was
You mean the
mainly
buck
indigenous
breaking cycle
females.
of the Caribbean island? Because you
Yeah.
know they got that buck breaking mythology too, right?
Yeah, you got the Tariq Nasheed promoting this LGBTQ hidden history of buck breaking and stuff like that, how the master would grape some of these slaves or something like that. And you also got the two spirit stuff that he ain't talk about, but it's here nor there with
That's of the
the
reservation dogs, though,
mhm.
right? The hermaphroditic two spirit, all in one person,
And
combo
the
sex.
silly thing that they added that shit in Lovecraft Country, if you seen that show.
Oh, now you going with the nine-tailed fox and stuff?
Yeah, they added in that two spirit hermaphrodite in the episode with what's his name off The Wire with the scar on his face.
Well, remember the YT woman was turning the quote unquote black woman, who is Annie from Sinners, into another white woman, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why we're tackling these things, because of the fact that people take these sources that have no backing, no information, no primary sources, and then they say, "Oh, because a book said it, because this professor said it, it makes it true," and it doesn't make it.
But they mold it to their purposes. See, but again, the purpose that's never undermined is, and forgive me, sisters, you know my messaging is direct, succinct, and I think on point. Get the nigga.
Yep,
You
that's
gonna
a
put
fact.
that on your tombstone, Alabama.
Right? But we gotta put ... But the nigga was never gotten. We gotta make a
he
book
back.
Alabama.
YK's
They
back.
tried to
Put
get the
chat,
nigga, but
link
it
in the chat
failed.
right quick. Put the link in the chat so he can come up here, because I want to body bag
No,
him.
I'm really intrigued at you, sisters, when you do decide, and I hope you do, to use this video, maybe sprinkle a little Henrietta Lacks, who, by the way, cells are still procreating and replicating since 1951, and put in the Y chromosome of Albert Perry. Where did the perpetual slave get born?
Mm-hmm.
And
And since you mentioned that haplogroup stuff, Chief Natural, he showed that A2, the marker that they sit up here and say that, oh, this is the mitochondrial Eve of Native Americans. It got African haplogroups in it, a whole bunch of L's in the subclades, and also the oldest strain of sickle cell anemia is found amongst the Mayans and Puerto Ricans and Aztecs. So we can't be playing these dumb games with these pan goofies no more, because they love using that DNA stuff. It breaks the entire narrative actually, because the haplogroup stuff, these markers overlap with other genetics of racial people backgrounds, and they try to use this as the new blood quantum when that race is supposed to be a construct, right?
But again,
Do you
isn't it
know
easy?
Alabama
Isn't it
Gertrude
simple to say that
DNA?
they're as bankrupt as 23andMe? How about that part?
Yeah, for sure. But do you know Gertrude's DNA is available on any of these sites?
Well, I don't know, but the Henrietta Lacks is. Have you not heard the way that story is playing out?
No, I didn't hear that Henrietta Lacks is. Where's
It
hers?
is all scientific research the world over.
Well, I know she's from scientific research, but let me be specific with my question, because you can go to these genome DNA matches and you can do your own research with DNA profiles. So they allow you to have certain of the DNA bases from the Human Genome Project. Some of the Clovis DNA is available and things like that, where you can do your own comparisons to this DNA. So that's why I was asking, is
No,
Gertrude
I got you,
DNA
sis, on that.
available?
We're starting to get on the edge of a rabbit hole of dealing with, is it an invasion of personal privacy to take the genome of any person and stretch it over all people, a group of people, or how about niggas in particular? Isn't that Kunta Kinte? Now we've got genetic, supposed factual information, the Y chromosome of Albert Perry. Now we have Gertrude. Henrietta Lacks happened literally in the middle of the Tuskegee experiment timeline between 1932 and 1972. She was allowed to expire in 1951, but her cells did not. And they are still underwriting the entire global. Who was that fool and whatever that slow bus mentally challenged person in the chat said? Science is over your grandmama lying. How about the science is of your grandmother, you dipshit? And now you.
But yeah, so Tyrone, no one's gonna hit the link, so we're just gonna go around and end it so we can end the show.
Oh man,
We'll start off with you
panties don't want to come up here
because they know better.
I don't think so, because they love trying to find clickbait.
Well, yeah, because they go on channels where they can fight, where they're gonna yell over and all this other stuff, and they can't do that over here. So you'll never see them on a channel where they're gonna be made to actually be quiet and let one person talk and then the next person talk. That's not their MO. Their whole thing is yelling over you. And if there's a channel that's not gonna let you do that, they're not gonna come.
Yeah, because they've been trying to clip me talking about my own results, and that's why that neck clown in the comments talking about, oh, tell them about your DNA. Commercial DNA test is not the end all be all. Plus, they don't have an extensive sample base of the human genome pertaining to Africa or American Indian. So I don't know why these niggas settling on a guess.
Right. And that's why I asked too, because if you do want to look into that, Sachi had told me about GPT, but it's not letting it be done for me. For some reason, it just keeps saying it can't do it for me. But I'm a
what you mean
figure it out if I have to pay for the service.
Help you out. You just need to ask the right questions and
well, what I'm saying is when I upload my DNA profile, when I upload my DNA profile, it uploads it, but then it times out during the analyzation, and it says we can't do any further analyzing today. We have to you have to try again tomorrow. And
Oh,
it's been doing that every day.
you use Chat GPT for your DNA. No, I didn't do that for my DNA. I just
Yeah, so that's why I'm
took the
letting you
DNA.
know. So if you go to these different sites like DNA Genome or Chat GPT, wherever they have actual indigenous and American profiles, especially old DNA, I think for the genome DNA matches, all they have is Clovis. But wherever you can find, some older DNA comparisons, you can run the comparisons for yourself. So I was able to
So,
find the oldest archaic DNA that I have, and it says that it's Clovis.
so
But
with
you can
my
do the
DNA, what I got with indigenous, they tried to lower it to 0.7, but my brother got 1.0, and they try to put it over to Mexico on my father's side. We don't really know what specific indigenous group they come from on my dad's side, but on my mother's side, they said that it's Muskogean, but the haplogroup stuff said Yak and PD, Low Country Gullah, and these low country Black American groups on the what they would label African diaspora, and on my mom and my brother's side they get Caribbean markers on there, but we don't really know if that's true or not. But where they try to put so and that's not even a full extensive complete human genome of those people, right? And this is coming from like 23andMe and Ancestry, because these are white owned companies. And with Rick Kittle's own African ancestry test, he may say, and Gina Page may say that they got the quote unquote largest human genome sampling of Africa, but they only utilize the Y chromosome test and the mtDNA test, which count takes you all the way back to billions of years ago. No, not billions, thousands, when humans first walked the earth, to the apes and the Neanderthals and King Ramses III stuff, which is irrelevant and also a joke at that point, because you can't take your DNA all the way back to the BCE. It can only take you but so far to the postbellum period, where it counts with your actual recent relatives that makes up your markers, because with every generation they go back, it decreases 50%. So uh, you get both sides, you get like half of your ancestors' DNA, and it gets shuffled and remixed, and they give you a random hodgepodge of different results that you get from a specific ancestor. You have to compare it with other relatives to get somewhat of like a small broad spectrum of what's in there, but they don't have the indigenous stuff.
You telling me, that, Tyron, I hear a lot of what you're saying. Are you telling me you identified the slave gene? And Aton is knocking at the
No, you're
door,
not going to
Dulcie.
be able to identify a slave gene because it can't take you to antebellum or a colonial period.
No, and all their genes is based on the haplogroups and how they group it together. So that's why even haplogroups are not accurate. They group it together of how they want to. But as far as DNA tests, I don't push anybody to do DNA tests. I definitely think if you are an orphan, you should definitely go get a DNA test.
Or if you're looking
But
for
other than
long
that,
lost relatives.
if you have people that you can turn to that are going to give you a Bible, give you a bunch of names, all this other stuff, then you really don't have to turn to DNA tests. But someone like me, that everybody's gone, everybody's dead. Like I have no one I can call up on the phone and get anything older than me. The people that have been living since I've been alive. I had to turn to DNA test because they're going to give you your living relative. So if you don't need
Or
it, don't do it. But I
genealogy.
needed it for my living relative.
There you go, sis. Live tested against live. Aton said he's knocking at the door unless you get ladies about to close it out. But
but
and I
one
know
more
people think
thing.
that I'm being obsessed, but the womb argument was raised by others shackling you African jigaboo slaves.
Yeah.
That's what they argue. You're born a slave. I don't know why you're so dense and can't understand. That means you came out of a womb, not out of the tip of a penis, fool.
Alabama, here's the hard thing though. Most of these DNA companies can't even help trace you back to a slave. It's actually hard to find an enslaved ancestor because mostly what they find are free
Yeah,
black.
that's too far back for
And
DNA tests.
what
What they can do, what DNA tests can do is they can find your living relatives. And to an extent, if the DNA is too short as far as the DNA that you share, then really by the time it's getting to like your seventh cousin, that's questionable if that's your seventh cousin or not. But if you put that back 7 generations, 7 times 25, which is usually a generation as far as it, that's looking at what,
But that's
175
over
years,
a
something like that?
century and a half. You know that.
Exactly, a
Yeah.
little over a century and a half. We're talking about things that were 400 years ago. DNA doesn't go back 400 years.
This is what the type of game that these niggas like to play. They'll sit up here and cherry pick the autosomal test and the cousins that they give you. So what Not a Coincidence tried to do. I think he probably paid for the paywall stuff where they gave you a guess at a living relative in Africa, because the standard test they just give you people that's all around the world, but except Africans, because that's the same thing what I got on my test. I never got any matches with West African relatives. All they gave me with the African stuff, a large percentage, but unspecified, and no relatives in Africa at all. But they all are non-black or black Americans that's in the United States, Alaska, and Hawaii, and just the US, and also recent Chinese immigrants. So in the 1900s. So what he tried to do was try to reach for the subscription where they reach for modern Africans that's living today, that's probably reached back far into like the ninth generation or so of people that probably got the same haplogroups as his ancestor, but probably might not be his ancestor. He showed us a person by the name of Ajero with a marked out name, and we don't even really know what he is. He probably might be like one of those Americo-Liberian relatives that bleached themselves with the American Negroes that went over there, but he doesn't really reveal who this person is, and he likes to run with that as his evidence. Or you got YK, for example. He wants to run with this draft card that says African on the draft card, but his ancestor is actually a mulatto with a conch in his head, and he's been over here trying to antagonize Black Americans, talking about, oh, these Indians that had a court case like the Robin court case where OTK was talking about. He was trying to deny the fact that these people were proven in court that they were Indians, and he's trying to run game, trying to claim that these people were $5 Indians because they were black slave owners, when there was no such thing as a black $5 Indian. So these niggas play interference for these YT supremacists and these racist Native Americans because they're coons at this point. They don't have anything to stand on with this African slave stuff. So now they want to try and be crabs in the barrel and try to interfere and derail reparations at this point.
Mic drop. Go ahead, Alabama. Do your closing remarks.
Find me that womb. Give me a date. Join the 117-year-old Gertrude, Henrietta Lacks, Albert Perry, and how did they squoze it down to be a perpetual nigger slave? You ladies have a good day. And don't forget, June 1st, you gonna throw Juneteenth on that bonfire?
Thank you. And Wale, are you still here or you already left?
Okay, yeah, I'm here. I mean, I'm listening.
Oh, go ahead and close out for us, Wale.
Yeah, I would just say about the thing he's talking about. With the topic matter is that at the first up until 1680 in Virginia, which was the only place. I mean, most of the place they held the situation was Maryland and Virginia, right? Massachusetts, excuse me, and Virginia. Those are the two places during the 1600s, and they say, according to their records, that I mean their governmental records, that half of the people that came, that they had there, half of the colored people were enslaved and half were indentured. So after that, things started changing and stuff. But we can't go by what somebody puts on you. Like if I grab you and I say you are my slave, that don't make you a slave. And that's what we have to reckon with. And me and Anton or whoever else make up a law and say that you're our slave because we made a law, don't mean you are a slave. You have to accept that condition. It's not even a condition, like, you know what I mean? It's not a thing you could pass on, because it's not like herpes or something. It's not something you could just pass on. It's a condition of the mind to accept a social standing that's being given to you by other people. And you don't have to accept that. And I don't know why anyone ever would. And that half of the states of the United States, or about half of them, never had slavery at all. So a lot of people, I mean, when you talk about the United States, they think, oh, everybody was slave. Not true. Look at the states that some were not. They came in after the Missouri, whatever. You just look through the history. That's all.
Yeah, you're talking about the Missouri Compromise of 1850. And yes, you said so much and so true. Ladies, are you still with us? Sharice?
Hey, yep, I'm still here. I really enjoyed tonight. Obviously, we always have to get down to the bottom of what's going on and what the truth actually is. And I think it's super nuanced. And that's the point of us being here, just us trying to get down to the bottom of it, get to an understanding and making sure that we're clear on it. I just want to really, for a second, before I sign on out, just you bringing up that video, Dulcie, was a great point, because I think that, I think we talked about this before, about how the professor kind of ran away from the quantitative versus qualitative data, because I always like to go back to that, because it's like we have a bunch of numbers, but no stories to match these numbers that they are saying, is the amount of people and what actually took place with these people and what the actual story is. And I think that is the biggest consensus, or I think they just kind of came to a consensus, if you will, about the slave trade and what it is and what happened, without any true verification or proof. So I'm actually really looking forward to what y'all gonna do on Sunday on Sonetta. I'm excited. Shout out to everybody in the chat. My girls from USM, Dots, Big Mama, Nisha, Dulcie. Y'all already know what it is. And I had a good time. And yeah, I can't wait to see y'all Sunday.
One more thing. Y'all heard about the Salagi Kiki trying to report us to ICE and the BIA stuff, saying, "Oh, sue all the fake tribes."
Yes, I've heard it from Chief Sekou.
Yeah, I was on the front line. She ain't let my ass up on her panel when she said that shit. She was scary, man.
But I also know that has already been an attempt before. They attempted to do it with Dane Calloway, and they've been super quiet that they attempted to do it with him, even though in the midst of the court case, everybody was bringing it up. They were bringing it up on Sonetta's channel. They were bringing it up on every Pan-African channel. Oh, the Native Americans are suing Dane Calloway. And now that the case is ended, no one brought it up but Dane Calloway in his win. So,
yeah, I was on the front lines watching this woman sit up here and try and troll us with American Trollo or whatever his goofy ass name is. Yeah, but this woman, she ain't serious. She's just a bunch. She's just a troll.
Yeah, they gonna fuck around and find out.
I clowned her on my page. Like,
Yeah, and
today.
usually they're trolls, but at the end of the day, they're gonna lose. So what happens when they lose? No one's gonna hear about it. No one's
Yeah,
gonna hear for
like this
them
one clown,
because
like Dean Gullah Maroon. This dude, he got body bagged by me in the DMs. This dude was over here using Google research that body bagged his own argument, pulling up Melville
but
Hershey.
Empress Love, you right. They better be careful. ICE already got it out for them, so they talking about taking people to court, and then
Hey,
they
what?
gonna be alerted by ICE. Like y'all aren't protected. So
Who is
I
ICE on? They not on us. That's what they
right.
got.
ICE
What
is
are they
gonna
really
be
doing?
tested
They know
for
what's
in the
Matter of
on.
fact, we the original ICE. What they talking about? Fucking Muskogos, the
They not on us.
criminal
But at the
chapter,
end of the day, you
Ninth
know,
Cavalry.
all jokes aside, even if ICE doesn't knock down the door, what will happen is it's going to be high in the news. Everybody's going to talk about it just like they did before. But when they lose the case, nobody is going to report that they lost the case. And
Yeah,
that
they
just
whole
how it
lives
is.
let in illegal immigrants to asylum seek on these reservations and steal native identity and cheat the BIA and the government on who's an Indian, but they'll sit up here and police our Indianness. Like, come on now, you calling us pretendians and wabbos, but you letting up Hispanic tethers.
Mm-hmm. Nisha, Dot, y'all still here?
Yeah. Good show. Good show. I just want to give a shout out to all of the with much respect, the Pan Africans that's listening in right now. I understand y'all. I get it. I really do. You know, cognitive dissonance, you know, being conditioned, bamboozled for all of these years and still not willing to open your mind and really think about things. Think about the numbers because it matters. Think about the time frame because it matters. And I just hope because I've came a long way from 2 years ago. Woo! Honey, I came a long way, but I just want to say that you know sometimes I know y'all battle and have all of these debates about this, that, and the other, but think outside the box. That's all.
And you ain't got to go into it, but has it brought you into any new discoveries recently with building on your tree?
Yeah, like I said, I just been ripping Georgia apart, and this, I mean, it don't even just from what I know or what I thought that I knew previously, and come to find out as I'm doing so much of tearing it apart, I'm realizing that I was wrong. I realized that the things that I thought I knew, I was wrong. And a lot of things that even looking at the census and it says militia district in parts of the city where my family still has land, it's an eye opener of what that really means instead of just you reading it but you not really understanding what you're reading. And I have grown a lot and understood that damn, this don't make sense. I got something that says free Georgia free people of color, and this was like in 17 something.
Right.
So like 1789, and it I learned that you know Georgia was doing their own thing for a while, you know, but when stuff started looking bad, then they had to go to slavery. So it's just a lot of things that you have to learn and really digest and just don't take in what everybody say. Do your work. Just do your work for yourself.
Yes, couldn't say it better myself. And I would say we've all come a long, 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 long way from the beginning or anything. And yeah, now it's just like amazing to just keep building on these things. Like I remember when I was like, sis, I don't know how I can build my tree. I want to get the DNA test, and I'm scared of you. It's like, go get that DNA test, girl. And now it's like, wow, where we are now. It's crazy looking back.
Ladies, remember, this is a journey of truth, and lies get kicked to the side. Go get them, Dots. Go get them, Dulcinea, so you can stop them from getting the nigga. Y'all take care.
You too, Alabama, and we for real. We about to have, we all have something, a plaque or something put up, and for sure. Like they tried to get the nigga, but they couldn't. Dots, are you there? You there to end the show?
You know what Dots done did. She did and done.
It's gonna be going then, because I ain't got it or whatever. Let me see if I can go in. Hold on.
Man, say, yeah, you know what I did all my genealogy. You know what? I haven't found concrete African heritage. I haven't. So, you know, that's I just haven't. And I want to, because I'm like a devil's advocate type of person. I want to find it. So I be searching and searching, and I want to, but I can't. I can't do it. I haven't found it yet. And this been a journey for some years now. So, I don't know. Okay, well, all right.
Yeah, because that's some real stuff. Because yeah, let us say it, a couple years ago, we was like, how dare you say we not African?
Right. Right.
Like, oh, like, you colorist nigga. You just mad because we dark.
Man, the growth over these couple of years, man, I'm telling you. We don't have the what we had on here, the hieroglyphs, what you call it? What the thing is?
Oh yeah, those the mod in the background.
Yeah.
Even though shout out to mod, nothing wrong with mod. But yes, we
We'll
coming a
take that
long
shit
way from
down.
it in the background for sure.
Put that shit down. Oh man.
Yeah, and even looking back at her and where she is now, before she like, I have all these. There's a clip of her saying, I have all these statues because I really feel it. I feel the African in me.
Go get your land back.
Right now, y'all read so about a damn shit to Sister Freedom. She gonna be like, you know what? That don't make no sense. You telling me?
Yes.
Wait.
It's good, man. Everybody getting on board with what it is. It's beautiful. It is, though. We are getting there. We're growing and we're learning, and I think that's what it's all about. I mean, I found so much stuff in my genealogy. I love looking through my family. I have a 101-year-old great grandmother who is still alive today.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. If she don't say it, like anytime I ask about slavery, she shake her head real hard, especially in terms of like that particular branch of our family. You know, like she just completely, she does not subscribe at all, like literally. So it's just me trying to get all the answers and, you know, get the understanding from her perspective and then get the records, because they're from Loudoun County, Virginia. So that's more so closer to like the Leesburg area, which is only like an hour and a half from DC. But it's very, very rural out there actually, and like they're just now beginning to really develop that area and kind of make it more
and she had to keep quiet about that because I haven't had someone in like that much of an elder in line to talk to. But I've always heard that some people's in that age bracket, because they had to be so hush hush about it. That's why they're like uncomfortable kind of talking about it.
She doesn't. Yeah, you're right, Dulcinea, because even my first cousin once removed. No, we're first cousins once removed because my great grandfather and her father are brothers. So we are first cousins once removed. I think that's once removed. Anywho, I'll be trying to get that once removed stuff worked out. But she's like 83. And like the things that I was talking to her about, she said that most of the time it was just they had to pretty much stay in their place. Like they weren't allowed to ask certain questions and talk about certain things. And I think what was also interesting is that, she felt so bad that I was asking her questions and that, some things she couldn't really answer because, she didn't really ask her mother and father a lot of things. And she just felt so much guilt about that. And, and I felt bad for her, just feeling guilty about not being able to really answer certain questions. She was able to give me our third and fourth relatives who are both American Indians. And she said American Indian, this 83-year-old woman. I didn't tell her to say that. She said that. Those are the American Indians in our family. She said that she was going to look for the pictures of them and give those to me and things like that. So I'm very excited about where where I'm going in this genealogy journey, because it is a journey and it's a process. And it's just like, they don't recall certain things within our family line or having a history of slavery. Like they don't have that history. And I think it's amazing. It's crazy to me too at the same time that like they don't have that recollection. Like they lived in outhouses and some of them had really nice houses and whatever, they just knew like it was just about the family being together and about them sticking together. And that's what it was about, like, they went through a lot of Virginia though. They went through a lot, but they're still here. And like, I think people would consider my family a younger family, but they've been in Virginia since past the 1600s, and that's how long they've been there. So it's just about trying to connect those dots and get that understanding and just continuing to look for who you are and finding who you are in the story. And that's what it's about. I haven't found any Africans in my line. I haven't found that, but I just keep looking and whatever comes up, it comes up. And yeah, it is a journey, y'all. It's a process. So don't give up on your genealogy.
And what I've noticed too is that, like, for my uncle, I know it was like a couple years back, and Deisha, you was the only one in the chat when my uncle was talking and stuff like that. And he had said, I know my grandma was a slave. So like looking at it, his grandma, I'm like, yeah, that don't add up for the time frame. Slavery's ended. So I've noticed now that a lot of the generations got sharecropping and slave like synonymous. So they could be sharecroppers, but they're calling in their mind a sharecropper is a slave. So I thought that was interesting.
For sure. I think that whole misnomer or that whole misinformation around what a sharecropper is really crazy, because most of the time, like, your folks owned the land that they were on. They owned it. Like my folks,
exactly, and my uncle knew that
their lands now. They still own their lands now. And there's a lot of branches in everybody else's families who still own those branches. Also
there's definitely some trickery and different things. I know people were arguing about that the other day of like not everybody has their land, and not everybody that lost their land lost it under like fair pretenses, and there's definitely injustices that went down with getting these lands and stuff. But that's something that Dot talks about a lot of the heirs property laws and different things that people need to start getting into. But the basis of this is you just have to have the story. They're not going to let you come to court just be like, oh, I'm owed this, without you having the paperwork to prove it. So that's why we have to get in the story. But yep, it would be, yeah, because my uncle would say that, like, yeah, granddaddy owned land, or my great granddaddy, my grandma's father owned the land. But then he would say, yeah, my grandma was a slave. Like, what do you mean? But honestly, they're telling the truth. That still is the truth of how a lot of the censuses and slave schedules worked. Because like Wale was saying, which is true, they weren't able to establish the type of chattel slavery they were trying to establish in a lot of different states. So a lot of times it's just like, maybe, I don't know, I can't say for sure if it was tax purposes or what kind of purposes that it was happening, but people would have their head of household and then their family would be denoted as slaves.
And then another thing too, like, I mean, and I'll add on to this, and then I'll leave it alone because I kept saying I was gonna go to bed, child. But you know, like the census, I've been looking at a lot of the census records, and a lot of those census got some trickery with them, you know, in terms of changing letters and, you know, crossing things out. And you know, I can't wait to show some of those, you know, that I found, girls and Wale, sorry. But I can't wait to, you know, bring those things out. I know people have seen them, but we need to see more of it and see how the manipulation has taken place. Because how the hell, I mean, if we're talking about when Black was used, if they're saying Black was used after 1870, how is records in the 1850 got Black on them? So, you know, it's just a lot of
exactly
like nonsense going on when it comes down
to a lot of trickery, a lot of different changes that have been made. I mean, shout out to who does the clips. His name is TB2 Live, and he's historical indigenous sites on Instagram. And he was pointing out, as far as that he came across with his genealogy search, a whole record where they're crossing out what it looks like a C or an I, and they're putting B over it.
Yes. Trickery. Trying to play with us. You know what I'm saying? Trying to go back and write it in time, write it in history. I mean, I think Supreme Chief put it the best when he say that, dating things back, and they are. And they do it with all records and anything, any type of historical record. Just like if you see an African American in something that they're talking about from, like, let's say the 1700s or the 1600s,
yeah,
you know they wrote it back.
African American in that time.
Yeah, come on, some common sense. I think a lot of people really be disingenuous around this African American term, and you could probably only find maybe 2 or 3 things on one hand that actually can account for, oh, African American was used back then. Don't be an ignoramus. Like, seriously, like that's real weird. Don't do that. Don't do that.
You see Enoch's, Nisha?
I told him.
Oh, y'all kind of do favor each other.
Yes.
I'm like looking at it still. I'm like, okay, y'all kind of do favor each other.
Cousins.
Enoch, is your people from Georgia or the coast at all? Where's your people from? But yeah, we definitely have to get this Georgia stuff down. That's something I'm definitely interested in. And I've come across more things of Georgia. Like I was telling Sharice, like I'm coming across these kings, and she had put Martin Luther King's like tree out, and I got those names in it. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I got that name too, and that name too. So I'm like, I need to look into these kings. I need to understand because I got these kings, but I don't know what's going on.
Finding your family is a beautiful thing, you know.
Yes, it is.
It is. Like, shoot, like my 5th great grandfather is like, he's amazing. The kids he had, amazing. You know, I'm like, dang. It's just you know, you find yourself and you be like, oh my God, like, dang, it really wasn't what they made it out to be. You know, a lot of people was
Right.
on the right side. You know, it's just a lot of stuff just getting hidden in history. I had an ancestor who was trying to get rid of the word Negro. He said he was going to keep fighting until it was dispensed with in a letter that he wrote to W.E.B. Du Bois. So it's like, I know it's a
Yeah, I
lot of
remember when you showed that.
yeah.
That's amazing. Like, oh, we ain't no Negroes.
I'm telling you.
Get out of here.
You on the right side, man. And these people don't often get that recognition that they deserve, you know. But I mean, I can kind of see where I get it from a little bit. And I think that that's what makes me feel good. Like, okay, I am doing the right thing, trying to understand who I am, and like, you know, knowing that the lies was never sitting right with me. And I think even the first time Obama got up there and he made this long speech around how they need to let the justice system do what it do when Freddie Gray died and everything like that. And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand how a so-called black man could be up there speaking this way. And then I had to realize in that moment that he was not for us and that he was not us. They doxed me on Facebook and everything when I wrote that shit up there. I had like 200 comments up under that goddamn post. People was mad at me and basically saying that I shouldn't have said that. But I mean, I stand on what I said about anybody or anything because he was not us. And I mean, if you were really us, you would not be tolerating anything like that, not even close to it. So, you know, it was a lot of things that I had to kind of come out of to get to where I am now. And, you know, and I'm sure all of us have been through that process, that coming out of the matrix and just seeing yourself outside of that matrix and understanding that there's a bigger play at hand. And we got to know how to play our cards because, you know, our kids are going to grow up learning misinformation and not understanding who they are. And we can't have that. So, you know, like it's our turn and it's our, you know, us as young women, young men, it's our time. We have to be the ones that step up and do it because who else gonna do it? Who else gonna do it? That's how I see it.
Nobody.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, we gotta do what we gotta do, man. If we know the truth, we gotta speak up on it and we can't be scared. We just can't be, you know, we really are in a pickle for real. And I've never seen anything like this. A mental health situation going on, a lot of things is going on. And I hope that we can, you know, I hope that we can come together and stop all the foolishness. Because if we can't get on one page about who we are, then we're never going to get anything solved. Because that's the first things first. You know, you got every group over here, people over here, you know, everybody's on their own wavelength. We have to get on one page, one solid page that we come from this land. This is our land, and you didn't snatch us from nowhere else. And if you did, show me the boats and show me the proof and show me the authentic African ancestors in your family tree. Show them to me.
You have to first eradicate the out of Africa theory out of people's mind. I mean, that's everybody that looks like us comes from Africa in their mind. So
see, and I think it was a play from a long time ago. I think it's earlier than we think, as far as them being like, let's detach them from the land and call them Africans. I think that was a play early on that they were really trying to do. So I think that's where we're seeing documentation change, and then it starts saying Negro means you have African descent when they were saying Negroes de terra before, like Negroes of the land. Like, yeah, they look like Ethiopians, or they may look like the Africans, but these are different types of Negroes. And then all of a sudden the documentation starts changing, and it's like, no, is because they're African descent. Crazy.
I got one more thing to say that just came to my mind, if it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I think anyone should solve the problem or look into it, the color up until 19 something, I forget which year. It's called Indian red. You can Google it. It's called Indian red. and it's been changed and morphed and everything since its original color, but you can still find the original color.
Isn't it like a cherry under a red undertone, brownish color?
The artist told me he referred to it as a burnt sienna. Some people call it chestnut. But Indian red, if you look it up, you'll find that now they took it out of the Crayola box. It used to be in the Crayola box in Indian red because it's the same color of us. And when they started this fantasy that they're describing about us coming from somewhere, they had to get rid of Indian red. And so they did. But it's still available. I mean, if you look around, because I've been Googling it repeatedly. So once it comes up in the logarithm, they try to get rid of stuff like the woman was just saying earlier. If you see anything in the 1800s, 1600s, talking about African Americans and stuff, that's a joke. That's been repinned. They redid that. Ain't nobody was saying them words. They said colored. They got to Negro, and some people, like she was saying about her relatives, didn't like that term Negro because it was so that's another thing. They accepted as over a period of time, Negro was more acceptable, and now then they morphed that Negro right into black. If you should recognize the move. And that's
Anisha, we gotta talk. Is your Thomas in Georgia?
Yeah, that's my last name for real.
Oh, see, I have a 5th great granddad. He's a Thomas, and he married my 5th great grandmother. That's the Channing King. So it's Tone Thomas, and then Channing King.
So Dorcia, do you have my telephone number?
No, can you put it in the back?
Bill, I'm available on WhatsApp, and I will because I want you to. I'll give you my aunt's.
Do you see where it says private chat?
Yeah, in the back, I got that. I'm working on. I was saying, I also, if you want, I don't know if how you felt about it, but I'll also wire up my aunt if you want, see what she's about.
Oh yes, that would be amazing. I think that's nice, and I would love for you to go over some of Florida history and the people that you talk to in Florida, because Florida just seems like a mystery to so many people.
I can dig it, but of course we'll work something out. I put it in the back chat, the private chat. I mean.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Be good to yourself.
You too. Thank you so much for coming up, Elder Wale. Well, you guys, it's been long. we said 2 hours. We've been double that. So let me go ahead and play this song. And thank you all for coming. Yes. It's always a pleasure having y'all.
Thank y'all so much.
Where is it? Oh, media.
Play our song, girl.
Unscramble your mind. Unscramble your mind.
Wild Savage, you are hell on high waters, but I love you for that.
Right. That's what I was laughing at.
Good night, y'all.
Good night, guys. Love y'all.
Good night, JB.
Night, Nisha.
Night.